What's up, everybody? How you doing? Welcome back to the Punk Rock Review Podcast. Today, Rob and I are hanging out talking about it's an interesting topic, honestly. We're talking about the top 10 punk rock albums. And when you say something like, what's the top 10 punk rock albums? It's a very polarizing conversation, and it can mean many, many things. I don't know how Rob's list was concocted, but I can tell you that mine is my favorite top 10 like punk rock albums because these albums are the albums that affected me personally, and I'll explain each of those as we talk tonight. This isn't necessarily an objective list of what I think are the most important. These are just the most important to me. So before you get super upset, there's a bunch of bands that aren't even going to be represented in this that you're going to be like, but that's the greatest punk band. That's your greatest punk band. So please throw your list in the comments. I want to know what you guys think. What are your favorite bands? Albums. Did I say bands? I meant to say albums. I don't know what I said, but we're talking about albums. So yeah. Anyways, um, these records all changed my life. Every single one of them. And there's one in here that I didn't want to put in here, but I had to. And I had to because of what it did to me personally at what age. And I literally I struggled with it, man. I was like, oh dude, I'm gonna get flamed for this one. But it is what it is. So what's up, Rob? How's your day going, buddy?
It's going pretty good. Nice and hot. And thinking about these, doing 10 albums is difficult because
Man.
there's some bands where you realize, oh, I like a lot of their stuff, and it's spread out across a lot of albums. Then maybe there's not a single album you like at the band, and then there's some where it's like I have one multi appearance on mine, and it doesn't like. It feels like there could have been a bunch of multi appearances, and I feel like it is my top 10 though. It is my top 10. Like my head when I think of albums, those are about the 10, and I really wanted to limit it to 10 because I think in the past we've done some of these lists where we want to go to like all of the ones that we would include, and I really tried to stay away from it this time to just get a solid 10.
Did you not do like an honorable mentions little group?
No, I have some in my head that I kind of cut, but I just wanted to stick to 10.
Man, boy, I got like 30 written down here. So I've got, and since these are albums, what I did was this. I have my top 10. My top 10 is exactly that. It is my top 10. There is no room for change on this, I don't think. But there's a couple on here that I have to mention as honorable mentions. And when I say what it is, people will understand why. Because a lot of it is just based on time. And as time goes, these may end up in my list to some degree. And then I also wrote down, and my honorable mentions is like a handful, right? But I also wrote down 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, like almost 10 records that I want to very quickly go through that are just like my modern, what have I been listening to in the last couple of years? Because that's not the same as my like all-time. My all-time top 10 there is no, well, there's not no room, but there's very little room for change on that list. Whereas what I listened to in the last 24 months, I think is constantly changing. So I'll go through those right now really quickly because I don't want to spend a lot of time on them. I just wanted to acknowledge these records because I think they're important to me. And I feel like in another 20 years, these could be albums that I look back on and go, oh no, this changed my life just like those others did at a different point in time. So really quickly, the last couple of years, the things I've been listening to the most, it's weird too because none of it is representative of like my all time. It's crazy, bro. Like it's really wild. So there's a band called Bar Rats from Houston that put out an EP like I'd say like a few months ago. It's literally been like nonstop played. I've played it 100 times, like no joke, like a lot. And I haven't had an album like that in a while, and I certainly hadn't had like a Houston band come out with something like that. Was like it sounds like a modern day Rancid. It is so good. Then you have Castillo out of LA. They only have a couple of things they put out, so I just put down their discography is like in heavy rotation for me. And then Static Friction out of Boston. I've worked with them on my label. I really love those guys. Their music is, I think it's like a cut above the rest. I think that this band can really go on and do some things. So I've spent a lot of time with this EP, and it's important to me. It changed my life. But if you're a fan of stuff like Castillo, by the way, I said the other band sounded kind of like Rancid Castillo's an oi band, but they're Hispanic, and it's just very anthemic, very. It's just really, really catchy melodic oi, and it's incredibly well written and very well performed live. But Static Friction is like melodic, like street punk stuff. If you took like early Propaganda and Strike Anywhere, and then like this is gonna sound weird, but like some Leatherface guitar riffage in there somewhere, um, you can tell that they like the stuff that you and I like. Uh, Static Friction is a really, really good band out of the Northeast right now. Puffer is a band that honestly is like one of my favorite bands, period, right now. And they only had a demo and an EP. And I was like, but you can't really put that kind of band in a thing. Well, they put out an LP finally. And it's as good as I thought it might be. And I've been listening to it nonstop. Then you have Claim Choice out of France. They have 2 albums out. I didn't decide which one, just their 2 albums. They're literally my favorite band right now. That is my favorite band right now, Claim Choice. I'm flying to New York to see them. That's how much I like them. Bullshit Detector, Chapter 1, 2019, 24. Kind of self-explanatory of why that's so important to me. So I need to not say much more about it. Slugger out of California, Dead State is an album that I think in the next 10 years will be just kind of in regular rotation for me. It'll be one that's got some staying power. And then Syndrome 81 has Prisons Imaginaires, which quite literally changed the direction of like my life and my musical tastes. So all these albums are very, very important to me, and I just didn't want to not just tip the cap to them. And we actually have music that's coming out right now that could potentially be on lists like this in the future. So it's pretty cool. I got that out as fast as I could. I was like,
Yeah, man. What a monologue. It's a good stuff in there. That I told you we talked about it a couple weeks ago. I love that new Puffer album. That was
it is. I'm a little surprised that you like it, but I'm so happy. Like it makes me so happy because it's so freaking good. Have you listened to the Claim Choice stuff yet?
Mm-mm.
I'm gonna insist that you listen at least to their new record, man. It blew my mind. Like their first single has a harmonica solo in it, and it works so well. But yeah, man, if you like the Puffer stuff, I think you'll like the Claim Choice stuff. Both of those bands are really competing for like what's being played daily here at my house. It typically just ends up being both. All right, so how do you want to do this, man? You want to go 10, 10, 9, 9, 8, 8?
Yeah, let's go like that.
All right, so I'm gonna let you go first. I want to know what is your number 10. When I get down to say like in between uh 3 and 4, I'm gonna give a few honorable mentions. If you have something on the top of your head that you can remember, by all means, I'd like to hear from you as well. But let's start out and let's do this, man. What's your number 10?
All right, number 10, and this was hard because I think that's the most rotating slot on any list. Is kind of your number
Yeah.
10, the one that's hanging on. And I went to actually a few different albums by this band specifically, and one we were just talking about off air, we're going to talk about next week. Pennywise with Straight Ahead at number 10. For me, again, there was a band that like I knew Pennywise was probably going to be included in here, and when I was going down the album list between this, it was Straight Ahead, it was Landed the Free, and when I just kind of go down the track list, it's like I think the greatest collection of the songs that I like the most in their discography, and it's one that for having as many songs that it has, I kind of like every single one of them. I can kind of sing along to almost every single one of them, and it just sort of has that that quality, that ultimate, that Pennywise rebellious. It's not as sonically, I don't think it's quite as good as Landed the Free in terms of just of how it sounds, but it's still pretty darn good. It's right there. But
It's very close.
I think in terms of songs, and it's actually I think a little bit sleeker maybe than Landed the Free. In the way that some of the songs come across. I think Land of the Free is a little more of like an angrier album. Not to say that this isn't, but this has more of so Land of the Free starts with that Pennywise 2000s, like that style of societal critique that they were doing. This still feels like the 90s. Like there's just themes and stuff on here that
That's
kind
valid.
of has like a 90s vibe to it. It's the end of that. And even like the song Alien, I think is a good representation of something that very much sounds like a song that would happen in the 90s, of subject matter from the 90s, but still really works out really well. And like to this day, I think has a really good pull to it. So it's like if someone wanted to like get into Pennywise and I couldn't give them like a greatest hits, this is the album I would give them. And I think it would be a pretty good roadmap to understanding. Like if you liked this, you probably liked the band.
You know, it's interesting. I think that it's hard to argue with anything that you're saying. I pretty much agree. I have a slight bit different, like personal take on it, but I also think what you said is pretty much true. So it's a weird thing because I think if I was going to introduce somebody to Pennywise, I would ask them like 3 or 4 questions, and then I would either hand them this one or Land of the Free. So like it's not really wrong. It's just like I might also go with a choice. So, but Straight Ahead is, I can't tell if it's my favorite or if it's their best, but it's one of those.
Mhm.
It's either their best or my favorite, and I don't know which one it is. I don't think it's both, but it juggles back and forth between one that I've got on my list. Spoiler alert! Here down somewhere. Pennywise is a band that I understand the gripe. I get it. I
Mhm.
understand when people say, "Oh, it's just jock punk." They didn't do that to themselves, and it certainly wasn't intentional. So I don't understand the gripe as far as anything more than saying it. If you're going to actively dislike them because of that, it's stupid because if you listen to the band, they're not jocks. Like, so like, I'm sorry they have slick guitar riffage and good production. I just think they were trying to bring their best product to the table. So they're a band that's incredibly important to me, and they're a very good, um, I don't know, like tone check for whether or not somebody's going to be into punk.
Mhm.
Oh, do you like this? Because they're not pop punk. So, like, okay, you like Blink 182. The next natural progression could very well be like No Effects or Pennywise, right? You like
Mhm.
these bands? Oh, well, then do you like Bad Religion? And then you just keep going down the line. But it's a very good uh, gut check, for lack of a better term. And Straight Ahead is an album that I may have the fondest memories of that one, and it definitely was one that. What year did that come out? 1999,
99, yeah.
99. So I was 17. That was one of the first records that I bought with my own money from my own job. So
Mhm.
like that one's a little special to me, regardless. So yeah, bravo me, a good pick. All right, my number 10. Okay, I'm gonna have to explain every one of these picks because people are gonna be like, "What?" Again, dude, not every like this isn't even my favorite record. Well, that's actually not true. This might be my favorite record from this band. Number 10, I put The Unseen, The State of Discontent. Excuse me. So I had heard The Unseen before this album came out. But this is the first album that came out while I was a fan of the band. So it also came out on Hellcat. I'm sorry. It came out on Hellcat. So I was already going to be a fan of it for that. But I think that this is their greatest album. Like it comes out and it's a full on mixture of where they're headed and where they came from. It peaks at this point. You've got fast, angry, political, but you've got good production. You got a little bit of money behind it. They're on a little bit bigger tour. Like, dude, isn't there a Lars Fredriksson feature on this album? Like this, it's such a ridiculous record in a good way. Let me see. Let me pull this up real quick. I love the cover art on this record too. It's bright, it's in your face. Now, I look, people can say whatever they want. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. I think the cover art on this is fantastic, but it is very 2000s. It looks 2000s. This is 2005. Okay. Yeah, maybe this is like the second album to come out as I was a fan. Let me look at their discography again. I thought it was their first one that came out as I was a fan of the band, but I'm thinking maybe that's not the case.
It was probably Explode, but like
Yeah, I think
it was much more. That album was much more underground though eh, than what State of Discontent was.
right. Yeah, I actually, man, because I think they had 2 records out whenever I was introduced to them, and then yeah, oh, it might be The Anger and the Truth might be the one that came out when I was a fan of them. Nonetheless, um, I was surprised when the State of Discontent came out on Hellcat. I thought that was really cool, and it's got the best mix of like hardcore, street punk, political commentary. They really came into their own vocally on this album, I think. It's not as raw, it's not as punk rock to some. I don't understand the like desire to just keep your music sounding like crap, but some people really like that. This, I think, if you ask the band, might be their biggest piece of like, here, this is our greatest achievement. Uh every song on this thing is ridiculous, with the exception of the cover song. And which is fine because it's the last song. I just don't like that song. It has
Oh,
nothing to do with them. I hate that song. But um, other than that, everything on this is amazing. But "Scream Out" might be my favorite Unseen song. "You Can Never Go Home" is a fantastic song. Um, "Waste of Time" is one that really gets me going. "We Are All That We Have." Like, there's so many just really, in my opinion, classic Unseen tracks on this. It's 14 minutes, 32 seconds. It's perfect, dude. It's a perfect. And if you're like looking to a kid that's like, man, I like punk and I like Pennywise, I like No Effects, but I want something a little more punk than that, and you're not really ready to give them like a Global Threat or like, Oxymoron, you go, here, take this, or maybe a Casualties record, and you give them those, then they get to go. So this is a good step in that direction, in my opinion. And I know some real punk rock people are going to disagree with me. That's okay. You're allowed to do so. What's your opinion on State of Discontent?
yeah, it's also my favorite Unseen record, and kind of similar to you, and how it sounds like so I discovered the Unseen first. I remember on like there was like a street punk comp that had a lot of the street punk bands that I discovered. I think I discovered from that comp, and then I had like another Unseen comp on top of that that was like just a collection of early singles, and I think there might have even been a few different singers in there. So I knew a lot of Unseen songs, but they weren't really like a realistic band to me until this album came out. I love a lot on it. I saw them, I want to say twice on the tour, because I saw these songs live a couple of times. And I going through them, I haven't thought about this album in a while, but I'm thinking of songs like Social Damage. I like the Rolling Stones cover, Weapons of Mass Deception. Screaming Out has a cool video that goes along with it. It is exactly what you're saying. It's a perfect like entry point from that time period, especially because there was a lot of like punk rock type of stuff that was being produced and mass produced in that era, but you still couldn't really find anything that really resembled like punk rock in that pure uncut form. And this stuff was fairly accessible. Like I don't know that Screaming Out was in like a Tony Hawk video game, but it feels like it was at that level of like notoriety of a song. You know what I mean? That kind of could hang over there. And it's funny too. You're talking about the Unseen, how they have that mix of like the hardcore, and they're also melodic enough, I think, in their
Yeah.
songs. Trip has a lot of personality in the way that he sings and stuff like that. So it's not all like super serious all the time, but they can bring it. Yeah, I love that album. And look, I'm looking at the cover of it now. That bright red, all that just feels like mid 2000s color wash stuff.
I'm pretty sure that Mark was singing on this album. Am I tripping? Was it not Mark? I don't actually know. Hold on.
You're probably right. Did I say Trip?
You did, but that isn't. I'm like second guessing myself. I am terrible with these like factoids, so
I think
that's the one thing that
they
I'm
both
really.
they're both singing
That makes sense. That actually makes sense.
on this one. Are they? Have you seen them recently? I saw a YouTube clip of them like 5 years ago, and it sounded terrible. But I don't know if that's just
I
a
mean, I
YouTube
saw
clip.
them like a few months ago, and it was awesome.
Okay, so that could have been, because it was the thing where his voice was like super high pitched, but sometimes that's just like because the video from a cell phone. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
the whole thing sounded off. But
No,
good
I
to
mean,
know they're still
I thought it was
cooking.
awesome. Uh, yeah, Mark did lead vocals on this album, which I saw them play on a tour with Ramallah, and it was amazing, man. It was one of my favorite shows in Austin. But yeah, I saw them at uh, LA Punk Invasion,
Mhm.
and they were great, man. They were really good. Honestly, most of the bands that played that weekend were phenomenal, man. I didn't see much that let me down. Uh, yeah, I don't know. People said what they said about this band. They called them sellouts, but no matter what you do, if you get a little success, you're suddenly a sellout. You're suddenly a poser. I loved this album. I've never shied away from the fact that I like Hellcat, I like Epitaph, I like skate punk, I like 77 style punk. I don't care what label you're on, doesn't matter to me. But if you're on Hellcat, I'm going to pay a little more attention. Like, I like that stuff. And I also like deeper cuts, but I'm also not the most punk rock guy on the planet. Like, I don't listen to just, underproduced, shitty, crusty punk. I like to take showers. I like to, you know, there's I'm just like not that guy. There's those guys that are like they're so punk that they're cooler than you. Look,
Mhm.
man, cool, you got me. You're cooler than me. I don't really care, man. That album changed me, man. I loved it, it reinvigorated my it reinvigorated my desire to listen to the Unseen and bands like A Global Threat and even the Casualties, because I was kind of out of that stuff at this point. 2005, bro, I was listening to like Dropkick Murphys, US Bombs, more like 77 skate punk stuff. And then that came out, and it led me right back to where I was when I was 17 years old, dude. It made me want to hear super fast, super pissed off music. And, the Unseen did a lot for a lot of people, I think. So, yeah.
All
What you
right.
got? Yeah, what you got for
So,
number 9?
all right. So number 9. This one I knew was going to be on here, but I'm glad I remembered it because sometimes I do forget about this album. And it is from 2000, The Art of Drowning by AFI.
Oh,
Right before the DreamWorks, right before they went to the DreamWorks, they kind of in that phase. So to me, there's the hardcore skate punk era of AFI, the first 3 albums, and then
yeah.
there's these 2 albums, which is kind of like the Misfits cosplay era with the Black Sails in the Sunset, Art of Drowning, and the Halloween EP. And so this is where that kind of peaks right before they go into their super mainstream, the DreamWorks era, with Sing the Sorrow, December Underground, and everything after that. To me, this was the perfect amalgamation of all those earlier AFI eras, and it's to me, there's always something too with a band that eventually does break out into the mainstream. Usually, the music right before they broke out, not the music that they broke on, because that one's usually like after they're signing, but the music right before they break usually tends to be some stuff that's of like really high quality. Like, when a band's been long enough on the underground where they're super tight, they know what they're doing, the songwriting wise. And I think it's really interesting because I've made the argument, and I think it's the case that you could argue that this album and Black Sails in the Sunset could be reversed in terms of how the band evolved to be. That album sounds a little bit more maybe like the stuff
Yeah,
that
I
came
agree with
later,
that.
and this to me sounds a little bit more like the hardcore and skate punk that they had on the other albums, but with the imagery that is much more in that middle thing. And there's a ton of songs on here that I absolutely love: Ever in a Day, Lost Soul, Sacrifice Theory, Story at 3. But the 2 big ones that people think about from this album, the ones they played to this day: The Days of the Phoenix,
Hmm.
which again accompanied by a cool music video, all that stuff, and Wester, another one, good galloping, just it's weird because you don't think of AFI as when they look like this, you don't think of them as also having like really like badass, awesome punk rock. In that same thing, you start to think of them as something else. But this album completely dispels that. And then on the completely different direction, it has my personal favorite AFI song of all time, which is nothing like any of that stuff I talked about. It's Morning Star, which is a very slow, almost it's just Davey and like a muted guitar for like the majority of the song until there's this big epic come in part. And they did it on the album before with I think it was God Called in Sick Today, and they kept having like these, and they started this trend of these long drawn out end of album songs, and this was the second one. To me, this was the best one they had in that run. It's one of those albums that, even if I'm like, AFI kind of takes some of the darker AFI takes like a certain mood to listen to, but for me, not this album. Like, to me, this album I could throw on anytime, anywhere, at any part of the album, and the songs are just. I think there's a certain upbeat nature to most of the songs that sort of drives me in, and then Davey kind of keeps me hooked. I also always on the AFI music, the music that they make, the instrumentation. They've had 2 bass players. The original one, I think Kraus or Chris was his name. He was awesome. All those Answer That and Stay Fashionable songs. He adds tons of bass lines to there. And then the lineup that they've had since this album are all just freaking amazing. It's another one of those things, another one of these bands that makes it, and basically their core lineup has been together almost entirely since the beginning. There's a reason why they get really good after a while.
Yeah, staying with the same group of people, getting familiar, that'll improve your songwriting just because you get more comfortable. This is an AFI album that I don't even really register as like an AFI album most of the time. I usually forget about it, not because it's not good or that I don't like it. That's neither of those are true. I think it's a fantastic album and I really enjoy it. But the only AFI I ever listened to, like legitimately, like only AF, is the first 3 records. I don't even
Mm.
go past that. My favorite is their very first album, Answer That and Stay Fashionable. I don't care that the cover is corny. I think it's awesome. I'm a big Quentin Tarantino fan as well. I also understand why you would make that cover back then. That would have been awesome. Like back when that cover came out, that would have looked awesome. People wouldn't have thought it was corny at all. People would
Mm.
have thought it was great. Plus, as I spoke about earlier, Static Friction is a band that I work with very closely, and they did a cover of "I Want to Get a Mohawk," but my mama let me get one, and they actually did it right, and it sounds really, really good. And it's more of a actual like cover and homage to them more so than in like their rendition of it. It's
Mm-hmm.
actually like true to form, and it's like shows you that they can play a song to that caliber the right way, and that is just what I think of with AFI. But saying all that, you have basically made me want to go back and listen to this album again because it's been quite some time. since I've listened to The Art of Drowning.
Yeah, and it's a little. Some of the songs are a little corny, kind of when you break them down. But it's the funny. That's just kind of what you get with AFI, and that goes through every
Yeah.
era, from the Answer That and Stay Fashionable, even through like to today.
Well,
That's
I mean, even I want to get a Mohawk. Mama, let me get one. It's kind of a corny song, but it's still a classic.
yeah, that's a high school football hero. I mean, come on,
That might be my favorite AFI song. But yes, dude, that song rules. And we were at what, number 9?
yeah.
Dude, I'm gonna say this real quick. There's gonna be some bands and some albums that aren't represented on my list that people are gonna be a little surprised. So my apologies in advance. This list is very strange and it's very specific to my life. This probably wouldn't be anybody else's list. Like I can't imagine that maybe a handful of these albums are gonna be on somebody else's top 10 albums of all time list. At number 9 is the Minor Threat complete discography from '89 on CD specifically. That record, and I'll say this probably 8 more times, that record changed my life. I got it. I was in my dad's, I think he was in I don't remember. It wasn't a minivan though. It's a different kind of vehicle. I think it was just a car. I was in the backseat of his car. I went and got it, and I was on the way. I picked up 2 records that day, and I will always remember it because the 2 records that I bought, it's just so crazy that I was this age buying these 2 albums myself with my own money. I bought uh, Suicide Machines Battle Hymns because it had just come out. So whenever that album came out is when I first got this Minor Threat. And so I just remember I was standing at the counter and I already had uh, Destruction by Definition from the Suicide Machines, and I loved it. And I was looking for uh, the new Suicide Machines record, and I remember the guy telling me, I can't remember what order it was in. Either I knew I was looking for that. I can't remember which one I went in there for. If I'm honest, I went in there for one, and I got both of them. But I remember the guy told me, he's like, "Hey, that album that these guys made, they covered Minor Threat," and I was like, "Oh, right." I was like, "Yeah, yeah, I didn't know." And he's like, "Yeah, I don't want to hear it as a Minor Threat song." And so that's why I bought the discography, was to hear the original version.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what that did was that opened a door for me that has done so many things just over the course of the last 30 years, 30 or 25 years. I wouldn't have ever listened to hardcore like at all. Even
Mm-hmm.
with my friend telling me, "Here, listen to my new CD." I wouldn't have liked it had I not heard this CD. It opened up my eyes and ears to a whole new side of punk rock. Like I up to that point, I didn't understand that punk wasn't just punk.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't understand that Agnostic Front and it was different. You know, I heard this and I was like, oh, it was also the first like lo-fi recording that I really appreciated the sound of it. I liked the guitar tone, I liked the drums, I liked his vocals a lot. And it really also opened some doors as far as listening to some older recordings that I might not have liked before. Maybe some that I actually didn't like that I went back, retried, and after this, I was a fan of them. I understood. I learned a lot about independent labels from this record. It taught a lot. I read a lot about it. I read some articles, and I may not be the biggest fan of like some of the stuff that Ian MacKay's gone on to do, like after Minor Threat. But I love Minor Threat, and I love Discord, and I think Ian MacKay is one of the coolest people ever. Um, I don't know what I don't even know where to go as far as like favorite songs on the album because damn near every song that they've ever made is perfect. I don't want to hear it is probably my favorite. Filler is also really really good. Um, damn, Small Man, Big Mouth, Minor Threat, like their song is really really good. I'll go with those 3. Minor Threat, I don't want to hear it, and Filler are probably my 3 favorite, but it's not by a large margin. I like most everything they've ever written. And they're all short, they're all really fast. It's not melodic, but it kind of feels like it could be. Does that make sense?
No, it's catchy. There's something very
Okay,
catchy
that
about
maybe
these
that's what it
songs.
is. It's like not melodic, but it is catchy.
Because every time you're saying one of those titles, and in my head, I'm just like, up in. Well, I can just think of that
Right.
little thing that just sort of earworms into
There's
you.
there's melody in there, but I'm not going to call it like melodic punk because it's
Mhm.
not what it is. It's
No.
hardcore, but it's like it is catchy. Yes,
Yeah.
I love this. This one really did like alter the course at which I was going into punk.
It's a great album, and like you said, it's a perfect one to pick. This is funny because you and I both. This is something else we share because I this is one of the earlier things that I got to was this exact album about it's just kind of hearing about Minor Threat, knowing it as this sort of legendary band, but knowing nothing. It could have been like you said, it could have been old New York hardcore, or it could have been 70s, but I didn't know. I just knew that it was this great thing, and then I remember specifically thinking like this is the first time that whole idea of how like punk rock, part of why it resonates with people is because people hear it and they feel like they can do it or that they can
Yeah.
like do something similar. This album was, I think, that album because like listening to like Out Come the Wolves, like I can never play bass like Matt Freeman or anything like that, but hearing this has like I think that same effect that it had on a lot of people, or like that the Ramones had back in the day on people, were just like it's simple enough that I kind of get it in a weird kind of way, and it also like albums like this I think really have taught me over the years to like just because it's simple and predictable and a simple formula doesn't mean it sucks. And it's actually very hard to get right. And I think Minor Threat is exactly like a lot of other bands could have songs, I think, a lot similar to this. I don't know what the difference would be, but it wouldn't be what this is.
Yeah. I mean, there's a certain amount of magic in this group of songs. It's
Mm,
very encouraging is a good way I would put it. It makes
mm,
you want to go start a band because, like you said, you hear his vocals and you're like, oh man, I like his vocals, but I also feel like that's an obtainable style. I can probably mimic that. And, and I don't know that he would be upset by that. I think he would be like, heck yeah, go out and do it.
mm.
I feel like this whole band would feel that way. But yeah, man, Minor Threat right after the Unseen. People might be surprised by that one being so high on my list, but I was like sitting here and it came to me immediately when I started writing the list out. It was one of the first records that I was like, you know what, that Minor Threat discography like really messed me up in a good way. Like I was like, oh, I like this. Like when I heard it made me mad. It made me want to go skateboard too. I skated a lot to that record, man. Did a lot of skateboarding to the Minor Threat. So, but yeah, shout out to Suicide Machines because without them, I may not have bought that.
I think this podcast leads like old podcasts in talking about things that people have skated to in their life. Like
Dude.
specifically, this show we're doing today is just skate albums up and down.
Oh yeah.
Speaking of, at number 8, one of the great skate punk bands of all time, Bad Religion with Process of Belief at number 8 for me.
Whoa.
This was tough for me, and I'll give a spoiler. Bad Religion's the one band that appears on here twice.
No kidding.
And it was because I kind of needed to make room for this album, is what I came to realize as I was reflecting.
Okay.
On my list. Now, when we did our Bad Religion album rankings, I put this like in my top 5, and I think it was dumb of me to do that because I think I just did that based on the fact that I didn't want like my Bad Religion album to be also my number 1. You know what I mean? I didn't think I was trying to do like a hipster kind of thing there of like, oh yeah, it's cool, but like I didn't want to be so cliche about it. But then as the last 2 years have gone on, I thought about that decision to keep this album that low has really freaking bothered me. Still not my favorite Bad Religion album, but like compared to almost every other album I've ever listened to, it is that. And plus, like you said, one of those like life-changing, life-affirming albums when I got it. Again, not knowing much about what I was getting myself into with Bad Religion, hearing the name and stuff, it could be a whole wide spectrum of things. I remember hearing this, and what was great is this sort of came out. I was like the perfect generation to get this as like the newer Bad Religion, like their second wave of fans, which also like Epitaph was great at putting so much like ancillary media with all of their stuff. So I also got to see Bad Religion right away. I got to like have a lot of that experience. I remember I remember the Sorrow video being one of the first like punk rock videos I ever saw. It was like on this little Epitaph CD sampler or something like that I had. And then I love the way it kicks off with Supersonic, Prove It, and Can't Stop It. And other people have come up with this theory, but I think it was because you had Brooks Wackerman in the band, who was basically the best drummer that they have ever had. And this drummer who was, a legendary punk drummer I don't want to say a legendary at the time because he'd been in the Vandals, he'd been in Suicide, yeah, he'd been in some bands, but like a guy who could really, really play, and like he elevated that whole 2000s era of Bad Religion. I don't think the songs are necessarily as good as the 90s and like their classic era, but the songs are definitely more badass in the 2000s. And I think that's not entirely, it's because of how much better they got at production, but because of Brooks kind of just speeding them up. And even when they go slower, a song like Sorrow, I feel not overplayed because it doesn't get played that much, but it's like, it's one I can kind of move on from, even though like, yeah, it's a great song, but I also like, the slower ones, like The Defense, Evangeline, Epiphany. And then one of my like low-key favorite songs is You Don't Belong, which is song number 13 on there, which is kind of like, like in hip-hop albums, there's like a shout-out song sometimes at the end of an album or like a recap of the past. It's kind of one of those where it's it's really Greg going on these little riddles where you can kind of figure out some people he says directly, like he says, Milo went to college, but you knew about that. Jack wears a skirt, but he knew how to scrap. Obviously talking about Jack Grisham. It's just kind of talking about all the heroes from the past, and that's where you don't belong. And it's a really like inspiring and uplifting song, which Bad Religion does have a lot of inspiring music, despite the sort of like that sort of dark approach that they the take on the world. And this is just like, I think Bad Religion kind of at the peak of their performance powers and at a pretty good peak of their songwriting powers all at once, and definitely at a peak of their production powers. So it's just all those things coming together at one time with a bunch of great songs.
Man, this is another one of those things that reminds me that we're a few years apart in age, because I've kind of famously disliked Bad Religion. I don't know if that's not the right word, man. It's not that I dislike them, because I don't. That I'm just not a big fan. Like
you just don't have like I have like a reverence for them. You have not quite had that sort of like reverence for them.
Yeah, well, I've never had I just don't. The music to me, it has some things. I won't call it flaws. I almost did. I almost had flaws, but it's not flaws. There's just some parts of Bad Religion that I don't care about, and it's a lot of it's the lyrics just aren't really my jam. The music though is like kind of unfuckwithable. It's objectively really, really great. I don't know if I've gone through and listened to this album in its entirety more than twice, and both of those times I think were for this channel. I couldn't tell you what any of these songs sound like. So all I'm going to say about this album is that I need to go back and listen to it again, and I will do that before we talk again. And yeah, I like Bad Religion. They've got lots of stuff I do like, but I'm more of a much older Bad Religion fan than I am the more post 2000 stuff. But yeah, I haven't listened to this one very much. I remember the cover. It doesn't have like that plastic slip cover over it or something on the CD.
No.
I thought it did.
I'm trying to find it. Like, yeah, maybe it did. It's the one. It's the white cover with like the gears and the weights coming down.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was on a piece of plastic that was like over the jewel case.
Epitaph had a lot of those kind of like different type of CD packagings back in the day. So
especially back from like 2000 to like 2006, for like 5 or 6 years, they did a lot of that kind of weird stuff. And then I remember Hellcat. I was really bummed out when they did all the digipack stuff. I was like, oh, I get it. I think it was not only cost effective but less plastic, and I'm sure that had something to do with it.
Yeah, theirs were always weird too. They always had like the paper cases for all their stuff.
That's what I mean, like digipack. Yeah, but all right. I don't know why I put that in my mouth right as I was fixing to start talking. Because I'm fat and I like candy. Bro, high chews go hard to paint. I stress eat. I figured out that's why I eat so much garbage, because I get stressed out, and that's my comfort now. I don't have drugs or cigarettes or alcohol, so I just eat garbage food. Really not any better for me than any
also dangerous.
Stuff. Yeah. So my number 8 is probably going to surprise some people, but my number 8 is Germ-Free Adolescence by the X-Ray Specs.
Oh.
This album is perfect. It is a 10 out of 10, no skip album. It is probably my favorite album from a female punk rock artist ever. I love her shrill, high-pitched, screaming, what's the word I'm looking for here? What's the word for like abnormal, but it's not sound rude like that? It's like a something. Oh, what's the word for like? Oh man, it's on the tip of my tongue. Dude, it's driving me nuts. It's like unnormal. It's uncommon. Unconventional. That's the word. Thank you. Her unconventional vocal style is really great. I like female vocalists first and foremost. Like I really do, right? But I heard her sing, and it's another one of those instances where you're like, I know I could do this. If she can do this and be confident in that, I can do the same thing. But it also just spoke to me. It felt so genuine. Like there was not an ounce of pretentiousness in there. There wasn't an ounce of, fucking fraudulence. It was just so pure. And I like the colors on the album, and it was a classic from an era of bands I didn't really like a lot of stuff from that era. So I thought Oh, I don't even remember how I heard this, dude. I don't remember what age it was. I know I was young. I was probably past 17 because it was after my dad had passed. So I was probably somewhere between 18 and 20. And I heard it, and I just remember being like, I remember I heard "Oh Bondage Up Yours," and then I bought this thinking it was on there. I didn't even look
Mhm.
at the track listing. I just bought it. Come to find out, that's a single or like a B side or something. Uh, but the album is just, dude, I like the saxophone, man. I don't know what else to say about it, dude. It's like really catchy, really weird, really abnormal, but it fits so perfectly on my record collection shelf. Like it's just like, yep, nope, that stays. That's where that belongs. I need this album. It is an album that I will always own. I think it's empowering to women. I think it's a precursor to Riot Girl. I think that bands that I love, like Bikini Kill, wouldn't exist without this. Especially Bikini Kill, man. You can hear a direct resemblance in their vocal styles, like their delivery. Just like a la, la, la. It's got this real bratty tone.
Mhm.
Um, Polystyrene's vocals wasn't as bratty as Kathleen Hanna's, but you can hear the resemblance there, and you can hear that she was definitely a fan. But everything about this album, from the cover art to the production to the like unconventional vocals to the saxophone, it's just perfect. It's weird like I was, and I love it, man. X-Ray Specs are a band that I think need a lot more respect. And I'll be honest, man, I've been thinking about this record a lot for the past few months, and if we had done this video a year ago, I don't know that it would have made the list. And it should have, but I don't know that it would have because it's been in my face a lot lately because I'm doing some videos on females and I've been reading a lot of books on females. So like this album just keeps coming up, and I realized how important it was to me, and I'm a little surprised. I mean, it's just man, if you haven't listened to this record, please do so. There's a lot of stuff that wouldn't exist without it.
Yeah, and it's funny because it's from the 70s era, but doesn't necessarily. I would almost say it almost sounds more like it would come out in the 80s.
It
And the
does to me.
and their whole vibe is like they were like pre 80s, like in their fashion and everything. Maybe
Good
trendsetters
point.
for all we know, in the way they presented themselves. You talk about like Polly and some of these women, and I talked to you a couple weeks ago. Every time I give new punk a chance, I look at every song I liked, and like 7 of them are female fronted bands, and it takes tons of inspiration um, from the X-Ray Specs, and I think Polly as a figure too is so like just iconic uh, in
Well, she was.
all the punk music.
I mean, she was like, dude. She was. I don't even think she was 5 foot tall. She was tiny, and she was a woman of color, dude. Tiny woman of color, female, fronting a punk band in the 70s. Dude, the whole deck was stacked against her. So the fact that she was able to come out and become a legend like this, I don't know, man. This is very, dude. I like that you pointed out that it feels like an 80s record in the 70s because I never really thought about that, but it sure does. I'm looking at the cover right now and it looks like a Devo album or something.
Yeah, that kind of it very much has like a new wave kind of vibe,
Yeah.
but before new wave became something that sucks so bad, became synonymous with like crappiness, I think.
As I get older, I start liking a little bit more of that stuff, but yeah, generally speaking, it's not really my jam.
What breaks my
Uh,
heart is how much of our heroes really like new wave
I
because of the
know, dude, and they
because it's like
do. They love it.
the way like we kind of like pop music that was maybe around in our day because it's the stuff that was on. I feel like that's how they feel about new wave. Like it's the stuff that wasn't punk that still kind of got played, and
That's a good point.
it's very disappointing though. Yeah, but
It- it-
it's not terrible. I agree, it's not terrible. But I feel like I've just been conditioned through some kind of propaganda to not
yes,
like new
yes.
wave.
No, we both have for sure. But yeah, I think I'm a Poser is probably my favorite song. I just think this album has made so many things a possibility, and then it's also one that, if you look at me from 2 years ago and before, dude, there might have been 5 records from before 1985 that I really cared about outside of Cox Bar. Like it wasn't much. I did like Sex Pistols, Ramones, X-Ray Specs. I don't remember what year Minor Threat came out. I think it was after that. But
Yeah,
like
from the 80s. Yeah.
there wasn't much that I liked from the 70s. I just didn't care about that era as much as I do now. And this was one of the few that I really liked from that era. And I just think that this record is important for ways that a record from a man can't be. Um, yeah, it's for a different audience. Anyways, yeah, X-Ray Specs, Germ Free Adolescence, 1978. Crazy, man. Great album. Go listen to it if you haven't.
All right. Well, so we'll go to another one that I struggled with. And I believe on number 7, right?
Yep, number
That's right.
7.
We talked about this a couple weeks ago. No Use for a Name you knew was going to make an appearance on my list, and they do
Oh,
right here
I
with
didn't even
more
consider that band on your list. I'm such an idiot.
betterness. Now, again, I kind of go back and forth with this sometimes because Lecha and Friends, sometimes I think maybe I kind of like those have the higher end songs on them, like in
Okay.
total. So, and they're just a little, those records are just a little bit funner to listen to. Like in the vibe of like a no, when you want to listen to some fun skate punk, those albums are a little funner to listen to. When you
Yeah.
want to listen to some Tony Sly songwriting, though, I think this
Mm.
album is the one that sort of scratches that itch a little bit more. And it's a very, very like minor chord heavy album, and it's got a lot of those kind of sensibilities too. So it's kind of a downer of an album. It's very much a rainy day kind of album, but it's got my personal favorite song by them to kick off the album, Not Your Savior. 2 songs later, you have
Yeah.
Chasing Rainbows, which I think has just like a really, really good intro to it. Why Doesn't Anyone Like Me, which goes on these themes that they have all these like Big Brother themes in their songs, where it's always this story of like a 27-year-old telling a story to a 17-year-old to beware of stuff, and it's just another one. There's so many songs like that. I don't know if like Tony had this little brother that he was always giving guidance to, or he felt like the younger one. I don't know what it was, but that was definitely a storytelling thing that he had. Fairy Tale of New York, the cover obviously from the Pogues, but I like this version a little bit better just because it's the band that I like. So I say I like this version a little bit better. But both versions are fine. Both versions get played a lot around Christmas time around here. And then one to close it off on the back end, the song "Coming Too Close" is another one that just has a real like ominous vibe. Another one, a song that's I think about like a friend's drug addiction and where those can lead. A lot of the themes that were in Tony's music. By the time they get to the next album, it's like pure pop punk. Clearly, like I think his life has cleared up and he's concentrated more just like on the marriage type of stuff. And I think from there, the music actually changed into a slightly different. I think if No Use for a Name would have come out with those back 3 albums, we would have thought of him as a different kind of like much poppier
Oh,
punk band.
okay.
But because of the first few albums, they were able to retain a lot of that kind of skate punk credibility, and people just got used to them. Okay, they're just growing older and making a little bit softer music now. But if I have to pick between, I consider those 4 90s albums, even though one came out in 02, but that period to be like their golden period. This is the album I'd pick as the album. Not necessarily representative of them, but I think the highest quality that they did.
Interesting. Interesting. I'm pulling it up right now. And let's see here. You said more betterness, right?
Mhm.
Okay, yeah. If I think of you, I typically think of that album with No Use for a Name. I think that's probably my favorite as well. I can't remember what I said when we actually went through the list of the albums. It was one of the 3 we just talked about, though. It was
Mhm.
either Making Friends, Leche Con Carne. I think it was more betterness, but I really like that record. I don't listen to that band a lot. The vocal style is not really my jam, but I like that album a lot. And if it comes on, I typically go, "Oh man, what is this again?" I look at it and go, "Oh, duh," and I'm like, "Yeah, this is pretty good." I'm looking at it. I got a fair bit of songs from these albums that are like in my playlist. So yeah, No Use for a Name is a band that I mean, as we've established many times in this channel, I never got into the Fat Record stuff like I did the Epitaph stuff. So there's just a whole list of bands that I don't really think about much. Lagwagon's one of them. No Use for a Name.
Mhm.
People love those bands, so I'm not trying to crap on them. It's just a style that I didn't care as much about for one reason or another. I think I just liked a little more growl in my vocals, but it also might have been peer pressure, dude. Honestly, like I had a lot of insecurities when I was young. Um, you know, there's a lot of bands that I got a lot of crap for liking. So when I heard these vocals, I was probably like, "Ooh, no, I'm out." So real stupid, but it is what it is. All right, we're at number 7, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you said that yours was hard. So was this one, and it's like the exact same thing you're talking about. I'm like, man, this is the one right before they went to a different style of sound, and had they not ever made this record and just the ones after this, they would have been thought of as a completely different band. it was really, really hard to pick How I Spent My Summer Vacation by the Bouncing Souls over Anchors Away. Because if I'm honest, I think Anchors Away is their better album. But I think How I Spent My Summer Vacation is my favorite. I think it is switched. I think at one point they were switched to, I just put Anchors Away as my favorite because it's their best album. But I think if I think back on like what affected my life and what changed my life, this was the last album that they had before their sound changed, and I almost never stuck with it. I almost gave up on them with Anchors Away. It took a little while for me to get into that album because it sounded so different to me. But in hindsight, I can hear the direct resemblance. But when it first happened, this album has like song for song faster songs. So
Mhm.
like, but I think my like favorite two Bouncing Soul songs are both on this record. It's hard to not put Hopeless Romantic because it's tattooed on my knuckles. But How I Spent My Summer Vacation, it's kind of perfect, man. It came out in 2001 and I was 19. I was living on my own. This is an album that was fully mine. I went to the store, I picked it up, I bought it. Nobody told me to. I listened to it. I liked it. I didn't give a shit what anybody thought. That was rare when you're young. When you're young, that's not how a lot of this stuff happens. A lot of it is you discover something, you make a group of friends, and then y'all like what y'all like. Not you like what you like. It's you like what your friends like, your friends like what you like. And a lot of people will have 10 or 12 records that they didn't show nobody. But we all liked the Rancid stuff. We all liked the Unseen. We all liked, the Casualties got too popular. We're not into them anymore. When in reality, that's ridiculous. We all still liked them. The Bouncing Souls was one of those bands that for some reason, me and a couple of my buddies that were like really, really punk rock, we loved this band. And when I figured out he liked my friend John specifically, when I figured out he liked this band, I couldn't believe it because he was like the big Mohawk guy. And I was like, "You like the Bouncing Souls?" He's like, "I love that band. They wear Adidas." And I'm like, "That's true. They do." And, you know, um, I don't know that there's much that I want to really hear uh, outside of like Manthem and True Believers. Like those two songs are like two of the greatest punk songs of all time. Um, Dude, this whole album is so freaking good. I'm just like looking at the like list. There's some songs that I really want to be on this album because they're also really great. But like as just an album, the way this is put together is just so good.
I'm looking at the track list now. Those first 5 songs are all home runs. From that song to the Something Special, those are
Dude,
all like,
so is Broken Record.
yeah,
Man,
because I think it's hard because there's a lot of there's some slower songs on this, but
Street Life Serenade.
the conversion wasn't complete to what they
That's
became
what I'm saying.
on the next album.
They
And I
didn't
think
have to go all the way. They did.
like I get exactly what you're saying. This feels like the last fun when you think the Bouncing Souls as like the Adidas band.
Yeah.
This is the end of it right here. Before it's very similar to that No Use for a Name thing we were talking about. Justice. It's almost the exact same career trajectory, same exact
Yep.
stages of life and all that. They just kind of became songwriters on the next album, and that was going to be where it's like the Anchors Away. Almost every song could be played around a campfire, and this still feels like East Coast punk rock in the truest sense. It was my introduction to them. Well, Ballad of Johnny X was my introduction to them, but then this was like the album when you got the Punkorama comp that you could see in the Epitaph thing because that was the most recent one.
Yeah, I think my first record from them was actually self-titled, and then I went back and got Maniacal Laughter. But Maniacal Laughter for a long time was my favorite Bouncing Souls because that is probably their most punk rock album. That
Mhm.
album is freaking fantastic. That album is so good, bro. You want a good Bouncing Souls punk album? Go grab that. You'll have a good time. And it's short too. It's real short. But this is a band that I was like finished with my list, and I'm like da 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 da, and I was like, wait a minute, where's the Bouncing Souls at? I was like, I can't have this list without the Bouncing Souls. And the only band that had 2 albums on my list went to 1 because I was like, I'm an idiot. I have got to put a Bouncing Souls album on here. So yes, this list was really hard for me to make because of some bands that have 3 or 4 records that would end up on this list. Honestly, I do think that this list is pretty permanent for me, especially like 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Honestly, it's really not. 8, 9, and 10. There's probably some room for, depending on what I'm doing or how long it's been. Maybe those will change a little bit. But 1 through 7, I don't think I could change them at all. It's they're too important to me. So yeah.
All right. So my first and only repeat, as we and it came very close. I even thought about switch them, but it is what I think is my number one Bad Religion, which ends up being my number six album on this list. It is No Control by Bad Religion. So the difference between this one and Process of Belief was I think Process of Belief maybe like if it's doing the thing that we do sometimes where I was to put a rating on each song, I think Process of Belief would have like a higher aggregate rating for me. But again, if I'm talking about these huge songs like Change of Ideas, the song No Control, I Want to Conquer the World,
Oh,
Henchman, my old time favorite Bad Religion song, You, and then they end up with The World Won't Stop. And it's just like this was right after so they recorded this less than a year after Suffer, but it's like and Suffer's really, really good, but it's amazing how like they perfected the Suffer formula almost 6 months later. Like I don't know how they got that much better from what they did on Suffer. And Bad Religion recorded those first four albums all with like a 1 year lead time in between. So within the course of like 3 years, they had those first five albums set. And I think it was probably them being more comfortable because Suffer took a lot longer to come together in terms of all the turmoil they were in the album. Now they were back in the full thing with Greg and Brett and everyone writing and coming together. And it's like it's funny because they created these like classic songs that we think of as these anthems. You look at them and they're a minute 40 seconds long,
I
and
love it.
it's great, yeah. And they wrote them when they were like 19, and you think they're all about this big, deep, critical thought, which they kind of are, but then they also are just sort of those thoughts of teenagers and of young people and put in that way. And I again, you could ask me though next year, and it might be against the grain in this exact slot. That is kind of how, and I'm realizing that, but I might be thinking Bad Religion might need to enter like my tier in my head, which I generally keep just like Rancid, No Effects in the room. I think Bad Religion is that kind of band for me. I think not that they're a current band, but just today. If you were to go through my Spotify and what band do I just consistently always kind of put on for the last like year, but probably for the last like 10 years, it is Bad Religion. And it's a lot of these songs.
That's interesting. But this is definitely more my era of Bad Religion. I prefer Suffer, but it's literally a coin toss. Like today I'm Suffer, tomorrow it could be No Control.
Mhm.
I actually just would rather have All Ages personally because that's just a good compilation of their songs that I like. But yeah, this is definitely more of the style of Bad Religion that I enjoy. The modern stuff just never really grabbed me. I don't really know what it is, man. I really think it comes straight down to just lyrics, man. I like his vocals, okay. I like the music quite a bit. It's not the vocals, excuse me. The lyrics. This did I just mess that up? I don't know what I just said. Rewind. Anyways, my issue is I think strictly lyrics. I don't really care too much for the lyrics, but I like the vocals fine. I like the music quite a bit actually. The music is actually really good. The production's always been pretty solid. Uh, yeah, I think if I listen to just instrumentals, I don't want to like back on the band. I like them just fine. They're just not as important to me as they are to everybody else, and I never understand why. But I have to come to terms with I just really don't care. I like what I like, and people like what they like, and you like what you like, and it's all okay. Bad Religion, pretty pretty objectively great band, people.
Yeah, I think we approve.
Yeah, I just man, I always feel like people are going to misunderstand what I'm trying to say, but whatever, misunderstand it. That's up to you guys. At number 6 for me. I know somebody's going to be like, "Oh no, don't do that," but I'm going to have to, man. It's "Sweet Misery" by Born to Lose. This album really did help me a lot. So, I literally just got a tattoo on my right leg of "Sweet Misery." It's on my leg now, forever. I'm friends with Chris now, and it's really honestly kind of changed the way I listen to those songs a little bit because when I first heard them, I had no reason to believe I'd ever be friends with the guy. I played one show with them like way back when I was in a band, and doubt he would ever remember it. So like I only remember it because I was a big fan of the band. But there was a lot of days I discovered this band by accident in Austin, and I brought them home with me to Houston, and I think they had 2 or 3 CDs at the time, and this album, specifically the title track "Sweet Misery," man, I was in a bad way, dude. I was in a bad way. I was on a lot of drugs and I could not get my shit together. I just couldn't. Uh, I tried. I tried a few times. I got clean for a few months, or I'd get clean for 6 months, or I'd be like feeling okay. I'm doing good, man. I got 90 days clean, and then something would happen, or I'd lose a job, and I would just go straight back to it. But I have this memory of sitting in the back seat of a two-door Honda Civic hatchback. If anybody's familiar with Texas, driving from Huntsville, where all the prisons are at, into Houston, Third Ward, Houston to be exact. So I would drive in like an hour and 45 minutes. Super, super dope sick. And the only thing that was keeping me from losing my mind was I had an MP3 player, not an iPod, some like $10 MP3 player, and it held like 256 megabytes of space. So I had a few albums on it. That's all it held. Well, for a long time, the only album that I had on it was this one. And I just listened to it over and over. And I would sit in the back of that car as my friend Alex drove us into town to go get pills. And I would just sit back there with my hoodie on, my hood up, pulled really tight, full blast, just listen to it over and over and over and over and over. And that's why I get so emotional when they play that song live as Generation Exit. This is why it's so important to tattoo it on my leg. It just got me through a bunch of miserable times in my life. That all being said, if you go through the list and you listen to this album, I would love somebody to go through and point out a bad song. Like just one. Give me one song on here that's not awesome. I don't think that anybody that listens to the music that at least you and I like can. If you like Swingin' Utters, if you like Rancid, if you like Social Distortion, if you like all that stuff, but even faster, Far From Finished, the Ducky Boys, if you like any of that music, the Briggs, you like this band. You may not know it yet, but you do. And I'm literally looking at the list of songs, and it's 12 songs. Every single one of them are in my personal playlist. That's actually pretty rare. Even on some of my favorite records, there's usually one or two that are missing. Every single song. Uh, Not Alone is the first song. It's amazing. Salvation, Sweet Misery, The Fallen, Along the Way, New Babylon, Red Leather Romance. Dude, it's ridiculous. All the way down to Anthem. Anthem is like the obligatory, like acoustic ballady punk song with the like sing along at the bar type song. And I just chuckle because it's such a dumb thing to recognize, but it's 3 minutes and 31 seconds, and I always laugh because I'm like, this album ends with a 31, and I just go, of course it does. It doesn't really mean anything, but it does to me. Um, I would say that me putting this on a list of this magnitude and at this spot, what that means is two things. One, that it's a subjective list. It's my list. If you don't agree, you don't have to. But I really would appreciate if people would take notice of this album. They were a fairly big band. They toured all over the world. But a lot of people that I show this had never heard it. But every single person that I introduce it to loves it. So if you like the music that I like and you're on this channel and you dig what we do over here, go check out Born to Lose, Sweet Misery, and then go listen to Nowhere Bound, and then go listen to Generation Exit. Because if you like one of them, almost certainly you'll like all of it because it was written by the same people. Man, one of my favorite lyricists, one of my favorite vocalists, and one of my best friends in the world, man. This album, I almost start crying, bro. This album saved my life, bro. Like, there's a couple of albums on this list that saved me, dude, and this is one of them, dude. This album, and Chris doesn't, I think he gets it, but he doesn't. I think he's just like, I don't want to talk about it. But, like, this is an important record, man. I guarantee you there's other people that feel that way. It's such a good album, man. 2006 as well. Like, back in 2006, there wasn't a lot that was coming out that was this good. But
That's yeah, no, I can definitely co-sign the Generation Exit endorsement. That I showed you a couple weeks ago. Spotify really wants me to listen to Generation Exit like a lot.
Let's go Spotify.
And no, his vocal styling is very, very cool. Like, what did you describe it as once? Is like
it's like whiskey soaked like concrete with rocks in it, man.
Yeah, but like trying in earnest to like sound good.
I genuinely love his voice. Like, I wish I could sing like that. If I could, I was like, when I heard it, the very first thing I thought now after listening to it for like years, literally, I no longer have this exact opinion, but when I first heard his vocals, I was like, oh, it's like a higher pitched Lars. It sounds
Mm.
like Lars's like yelling vocals. After listening to it a lot, there's a lot of differences, but that's what attracted to me is that I liked Lars's vocals. I like Dwayne Peters' vocals. I like that whiskey soaked,
Mhm.
like, gravelly vocal style. And Chris is probably top three for me, maybe best. Also, he's a really, really good lyricist. His lyrics are really great. And Chris, I love you, bro. Your lyrics are amazing, man. I don't say that shit like lightly. I have no problem telling my friends that their stuff doesn't cut the mustard, bro. It's all right. Not everybody's going to make the best music. Shit, I became friends with him after I felt this way, so it's not like some kind of weird thing. Like I already love this music, and then we met. It was weird when we met. I couldn't believe we were hanging out. Like, this is crazy. So, yeah, man. Born to Lose. Go listen to that shit. It's from Texas, man. Texas is awesome. Or it used to be, anyways. We're kind of stupid now, but
Yeah. Well, the next album I have does have a song called, well, it's called Chainsaw, but it's a reference to Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So there's
let's go.
a Texas connection. Okay. So this one was another weird one for me. And so this one's lower. I wanted to make sure that like my top 10.
Oh, we're in the top five now, brother. This is
Yeah.
stuff's
Yeah.
getting heavy.
And I wanted to make sure it didn't exactly mirror like my top 10 bands one, but it kind of does in like a lot of ways. So
It almost has to, though, right?
yeah, this one's
Almost.
slightly lower. I mean, it's still a top 5 on both lists, but it's another tough one, and it is the self-titled debut album by the Ramones, titled affectionately Ramones. So the Ramones and actually the band I'm going to talk about next, which you guys who know me can probably figure out which I'm going to talk about next, given these parameters, is a band that I think you could say they put their best album out as their first album. But usually when you say that about a band, that's usually like a derogatory term. It usually means like, okay, they had this thing and then they couldn't really get it together after, or they couldn't do these things. I think often, like the great bands, when we think of their debuts, we talk about, oh, it's like the infancy of what they would become. And then it grows into this. Well, the Ramones somehow came like fully formed into like, and it makes sense for a band. Like, if anything, they had to like de-evolve when they occasionally added like 2 lead guitar parts, like years down the road into this. But like the whole like sound revolution, all that they created, all of that, it kind of can all be contained in this one album. If anything, it's one of those things where you can argue this is like the purest form of it, and everything else is kind of the deviation. The only reason why I was a little bit skeptical is because I think you can make the argument that, and some people have a different parameter. I would say the first 4 Ramones albums, basically before the Phil Spector album, all of those could sort of fill this spot as like great Ramones material.
Like
And all those
one
albums,
long.
yeah, and they're all pretty good. And I think if you listen to a back to back, there's tons of like sonic differences, but in your head, if you're just naming out songs, like, okay, that's all kind of the same stuff. But when you break it down, I would say if you look on those albums, there are little pieces of those albums that are just a little sleepy, or a little like strange enough, the Ramones try to do more of their 50s Beach Boys things, I think, later on in some
Oh
of
yeah,
those albums, because it became a parody of like what they did here whenever they were doing, yes, they were doing, that type of, the Let's Dance songs and those kind of stuff.
right.
But I Want to Be Your Boyfriend, which is kind of very explicitly like a Beach Boys
Yeah,
kind of cosplay. But I think later on they tried to cosplay as the Ramones doing the Beach Boys things a little bit more, and some of those songs could come off a little bit boring. And here they just didn't know any better. And famously, I think the album's recorded in like 2 days and mixed in like one afternoon, and is recorded very live. A
that's
lot of
awesome.
a lot of people have talked about, because it was recorded in the, very strictly for stereo and all that. So like, how many people have talked about they learned to play bass by going like this to that album so they could only hear the bass parts and just following along.
That's awesome.
In terms of songs, it's obviously got kind of the sort of the original punk rock song in the Blitzkrieg Bob,
Yep.
which
Yeah,
kicks it off.
bro.
But then Beat on the Brat, which is another
Yes.
just iconic song that's been covered a million times, goes from right in there to Judy is a Punk, which is the first real like fast, like super fast by song of almost any genre that was played like that. And then from there they turn right back into the Beatles with I Want to Be Your Boyfriend, and try to go that whole route, where even in the set, they would take off the jackets, and that's when they were doing like their sort of their cool guy thing. Talked about Chainsaw, which has that part. Now I Want to Sniff Some Glue. They have 3 songs about sniffing glue. Name another band that has that. On
Only
ironically,
good ones.
I Don't Want to Go Down to the Basement, which has that really cool bass intro for of Dee Ramone. Loudmouth is a great song. You're a loudmouth baby, gonna shut you up. Havana Affair, awesome. Listen to My Heart, awesome. 53rd and Third,
Okay, I was
again,
waiting on that one.
one of
That's the one.
one of the great punk songs. Like, what are like the iconic? That was not folk in the terms of like folk music, but like folklore punk rock songs. I think
Yeah.
53rd and Third is up there. And then I Don't Want to Rock Around with You. Today Your Love, Tomorrow the World's funny controversy where they had to take out. I can't even say what they took out because you might get demonetized for saying it. But the controversy on that is kind of funny and entertaining. It's like all those classic Ramones songs again, and yet they do kind of happen to be all packed into the first album. But it's funny because there's not really, I think, because we didn't really know what punk rock or like hard rock really was yet. You can almost argue that there's no real like hard rock type of heavy songs on this. It's all just kind of at for the most part at that Ramones register. It's not until the later albums where I think they learned how to make kind of bigger songs or heavier. Even a song like I Want to Be Sedated sounds a lot more like put together and produced and thought out than the way some of these songs are laid out. And it's hard for us now to like anything that's sometimes like revolutionary at the time. We don't live during that time, so we don't really know what a weird thing it was. Like how people talk about picking up next to your Beatles album and your Rolling Stone album and your Jefferson Airplane. You have this thing called the Ramones, and you put it in, and it is just such a left turn. And there's no guitar solos, and the songs are all 2 minutes long, and it's just odd, and you can't really understand what the singer is saying. And put that into what punk became. The Ramones are so tame by comparison to all this other stuff, but it was the first and the big thing. I'm not really putting it on there because of its importance, but I do think it is should be noted when you talk about the album.
So, a couple of things. One, spoiler alert, this is on my honorable mentions list. And it almost made my top 10. I'm not going to tell you which album that I was going to leave out. But it wasn't as important to like the formative years of my life as some of the others, so I left it out for that. It probably would be at like number 11. But the Ramones are one of those bands that like their later albums, like the first four, they sound a little different, but it's the perfect like band for a live record so that they all sound the same. So you can get album songs from all four albums, because if they all sound the same, you can't really tell which album they came off of. You just get amazing songs. I love the Ramones for that, but they also spawned an entire subgenre that I love. So like the Ramones, and specifically the first album, and then even the three after that, are really important to me because they also brought on a lot of bands that I really love, like the Queers and Screeching Weasel and Masked Intruder, and even the Descendants to a degree, like who I am a relatively new fan of. Let me be clear. A lot of those bands wouldn't exist or sound like they do if it wasn't for the Ramones, So that band and that album is really important to me. It just didn't quite have the same impact at the same time as some of these others. This is really a very personal list to me.
Well, and
So
I would say a lot of people my age probably think you're being sort of like a hipster by putting the Ramones so high on the list, but like you got to remember, I came up in the time where like the Ramones nostalgia started. And so, like, right when they started getting into the Hall of Fames and stuff like that is when I started liking punk rock. So I had, like, to me, like the lore of the Ramones and the books and all the documentaries, all that started right when I started liking. So I was able to kind of catch it right at that sort of phase where it was becoming informing what I liked about punk rock. And I didn't realize like the punk rock I liked before that and what I came to like, it was all the stuff that's very directly, whether it's the poppy stuff, the skate stuff, or even some of the like the thrash stuff and all that stuff that kind of comes off of the Ramones. For me, they're just such a central figure that links back to so many of the stuff that I would go on to like.
if I could go back in time, I wish I could go back and rewatch my first ever show, because I just didn't understand the relevance of. I think it was like the fourth last show that the Ramones ever played was my
Mm,
first show, and like, I enjoyed it. I remember the show. I enjoyed it, but I didn't understand that they had drama. I didn't understand the relevance of what was going on. I didn't understand that those guys were, who they really were. Even though Rancid talked about them on stage, I think twice. I think they might have played a song with them. I can't remember. But I remember Rancid playing too. But like, yeah, yeah, that band. If I was just a little older when I had first heard them, it probably would be a way, way, way bigger band for me. But I was so young that to me they sounded like an oldies band, because that's what they
mm,
freaking were. They were an oldies band that just sped up. I didn't understand that really when I was 14.
mm.
Um, Are we done with my turn for
Yeah,
number 5?
yeah.
Okay, number 5 is the one that I'm worried people are going to be like, what? Dude Ranch.
Okay.
I know, right? Like,
Well,
I bet you didn't expect that to come out
well,
of my
because
mouth at
like
all.
that was one of my like cuts. You know what I mean? That's one of those that like I didn't know if it
Well,
fit on my list. I was surprised you had it, but I've been deserving. I think.
and I think a lot of people will be a little surprised, but I do think it has earned its spot because I think that Dude Ranch did exactly what it was supposed to do. It got me interested in high school about a subgenre of music. And then from there, I got more interested. And at some point, I left it behind and went to only other stuff. But when I'm in my 20s, what do I go back to? I go to Dude Ranch and then I leave it behind again. In my 30s, what do I go back to? Dude Ranch and then I leave it behind again. I'm 43. What is the Blink 182 album that I listen to the most? It's freaking Dude Ranch, man. That album still rips. It's fast, it's snotty, it's pop punk. It's the last, I think, like real pop punk record that they made. I think that Enema of the State is still pretty much a pop punk record, but I think there's very little punk in it. It's mostly pop punk, whereas most of the records after that are just like popped, in my opinion. But like Dude Ranch is like really just a 50-50, man. It's a very pop punk. Like it's so perfectly pop punk. It's almost obnoxious, honestly. It's more pop punk than Green Day. It's more pop punk than Newfound Glory. It's more pop punk than Sum 41. It literally is like the definition. When I think of pop punk, I quite literally think of Dude Ranch. It might aggravate people, and I think Ramones were probably the original pop punk band, but like I think that it really just is a perfect sound on that album. Uh, I think that Cheshire Cat's a little more punk than that, so it's not as polished and poppy. So this one is like right there in that one little spot where you're like, it's still like a punk record. And you're like, yeah, but it's got like pop song. It's a pop punk record. It's like definitively a pop punk record. And we've argued about this millions of times with millions of people. And I just think it just brings it's too important to my younger years, man. Like it really molded me. Like I was skateboarding a lot when this came out, right? And I just remember being like, what is this? Like I was already listening to punk, dude. When this came out, I was already listening to punk. Let's see, what year was this? This was 98,
90,
97.
98. Yeah.
So I already knew Rancid. I already had Suicide Machines. I already had No Effects, right? So what made me go to this album if I already had that? What do you think it was? What made me go to this album?
I don't know.
It's good. There's two
Okay.
things that people can't stand about Blink-182. They cannot stand that they're like huge and famous. They can't stand that they're a good band. People hate it, dude. Like, look, man, I can understand that their last album wasn't my cup of tea. The production was mostly my issue, but it's still a good, objectively like good record. How many bands of that length can put a record that good out that deep in their career? Not a lot, not many. Especially not with the stuff that those guys are doing. But like Dude Ranch, man, it it was like a happy record. Like it so when you're young and you're pissed off, at least for me, you can go like into angry music and it might have some dark consequences, right? When I was having a bad day, nothing made me feel better than like Rancid or Dude Ranch. Like I would listen to it all the time, man. I remember when Enema of the State came out and I was a little like, it's pretty, but I still liked it. I loved it. I love that record, right? But there was a difference. I was like, I didn't understand it was a drummer, but like
Mhm.
I knew there's a difference, right? This record is a perfect, like, you can see like, oh, they changed after this record. They're a different band. They're no longer the same band. So it's I don't know. It just reminds me of high school, reminds me of fun, reminds me of skateboarding, reminds me of getting in trouble, reminds me of cutting up and listening to silly songs with like perverted lyrics and like laughing with my friends. Like, did you hear what these guys said? And they were funny, and they were a punk band, dude. They toured with punk bands. Like they were like part of the Bros, and I wish they had stayed like this, but that's silly. It's just a personal thing. But every single song on this album is great. It's my favorite album by them by a it's like not by a lot, but it's like a hard stop. Like that's my favorite album by them. It's not necessarily by a large margin, but it is my favorite. Like I don't know that shit, I don't remember. Dude, Illinois State's pretty like monumental. I think I've always kind of said Dude Ranch is my favorite. Shit, somebody's probably gonna be like fact check me and be like, "Nope, you said this one."
We both had it number one when we did our Blink album. So I
Okay,
think,
that's what I was trying to remember. I was like, "Did I really?" I was
yeah.
like, "I'm pretty sure I had it number one." Um, yeah, dude, it's such a good record, man. I think it deserves more attention from like actual punk rockers, especially from our age, because everybody liked it. Shut up with your bullshit. You liked it. If you like Suicide Machines and you didn't like this, please tell me why. Like, I would love to know. Like, give me an explanation as to why you liked Suicide Machines or even like NoFX and you didn't like Dude Ranch. Like, I can understand why you might not like Enema of the State. I get it. But Dude Ranch, bro, like that rips, man, so fast. Oh,
If you liked NoFX and you didn't like Dude Ranch, it was just because it came out on MCA. That has to be the only reason. Like there's not like logic to it. Like I think I've told you this before. It's in Greg Graffin's book where he talks about driving around in 1998 and he hears "Damn It" on the radio, and he's really excited. But he said he was really excited for his friends in NoFX, but he thought it was kind of weird that Mike had to now he was writing about like songs about girls and stuff like that. Like Graffin straight up thought that was NoFX had made it onto the radio, and it was Blink-182. And
wait, he really thought that was
yeah,
a NoFX song?
yeah.
Huh.
And he's told his anecdote several times that he really thought, and for him he frames the anecdote in the fact that like he realized they were a grandpa band at that point where they were influencing bands that were like that they had influenced NoFX, and NoFX had, like that basically birthed like this third generation.
Yeah.
And it's but that's what I'm saying, and I think yeah, it's hard to say between Enema because like Enema also has like really good songs on it too. I like the songs better on Dude Ranch. Part of that is even though like I got these albums relatively at the same time, I felt like I spent a lot more time with Dude Ranch for whatever reason. Um, Maybe because everyone had Enema and I also had Dude Ranch, so that was like
Right.
the thing to do. When I think about it, like Enema is like this grand kind of album, even though it's still like it's a pop punky album. It's almost like a super hyper pop album though, in the way that it is. Where this is like as poppy as you could almost get punk rock too. Is
Right.
what
No,
this
that's
kind
kind of
of
what I was trying to explain. Is it's like right at that tipping point where you're like,
like.
any more polish on this, and it's some 41.
Like it kind of helps that they have Scott
I'm
in the
just talking
band to
about it.
hold
Some
them
41
back,
is great.
if that
Right.
makes any sense. Like it actually adds somewhat of like a charm to the album because it could because really if you look at their timeline, once they fully integrate Travis into everything, that's when they spawn into this big like multifaceted band that does all of these different things. They were and in Mark's book, which came out earlier, he talked about how when they were recording "Damn It," it was actually some of the piano that I think Jerry Finn was kind of putting underneath it, which sort of spurned the idea that Blink-182 could be music that wasn't just bass, drums, and guitar. And so it was kind of the making of this album to start opening their eyes a little bit to expanding their sound. But if you look at like what I find very impressive always about Blink-182 is that it is this pop music that's filtered through like crappy music made by people who sound like me and you making like jokes and like when they're putting their best foot forward they can like win Grammys for it, but even like for their like just more casual kind of stuff like that, this is even what it is. So that's like they had such a pop sensibility to them even when they didn't really know how to write songs or really weren't that like necessarily great at it. When you take some of it, like "Damn It" is still one of the catchiest songs like ever that you'll ever
Dude, I
hear.
love that song. I
You
love
hear,
it, dude.
and then I think of songs like Apple Shampoo and Lemmings and some of those more like the slower kind of like reflective songs and those kind of things. Those were really well written songs that I think because Blink-182 kind of became something that was almost explicitly made for kids or at least marketed for kids in the 2000s.
Uh-huh.
We forget what they were like when they were marketed for like college guys, which was a much cooler version. They kind of fit in a little bit better with their actual demographic than the way the Machine kind of and obviously they like picking up all the fans that were more like my age at the time. But I think the adolescent Blink-182 adolescent actually as adolescents the way they feel on Dude Ranch. Yeah, to me that sounds like any other album that you would have in the Epitaph player that if you were putting it on, if you were switching. In fact, I think they were pretty close to signing with Epitaph for this album, and it was they.
Oh, dude, I got a mountain of crap for listening to this. Like I remember it. I can tell you exactly where I was in my high school. If I could take you to that building, I could go right there just where my feet were when my friend Ben was like, "Dude, are you still listening to that shit?" I remember because I had the CD case in my hand and the Walkman was in my backpack like this, and the cord was coming out of it, and I had my headphones on, and it was like you could probably hear it out loud, and I was just like, huh? I was like, you don't like this, man? And I'm the fucking orange and yellow and cowboy crap on the cover, and I was like,
Yeah.
this is awesome, man. And I just remember skating with these two twin brothers and my boy Ramsey Bashara, who I still talk to this day. Like, I just remember that album was like, as I was making this list, I was like, I have to put Blink 182 on here. And I was like, oh my goodness, I'm going to get so much crap for this. And then it just kept making its way up my list. And I was like, is this going to be in my top three? And I was like, there's no way it can't be. So I was like, looking at my top three. I was like, it just cannot be in my top three. But I was like, it's going to be like way up there. And, number 5, dude.
If I ever make like an AI copy of Blink 182, I'm gonna try just making them as uglier dudes, and I think they would have like a lot of their stuff would be a lot more well reviewed, and people would have just have appreciated them more.
Especially in our world.
Yeah, like I do think there are these kind of aesthetics that people end up making up their mind about a band on or stuff like that. I think the fact that they kind of looked like your slick like little cousin from like the nice part of town, that really pissed people off and really
Well,
like got under
this is a
people's
really
skin.
good example. This band and this album is a really good example of like the difference between like a kid from the suburbs that listens to punk and then like a city kid, like an inner city kid. Because you get like an inner city kid and they're probably like, this shit is garbage, dude. I need something with more relevance. Like their lives are just very different. They're not the same life. They don't have the same struggles. And you have these kids from the suburbs. They may not be wealthy, but they got a little bit of money. They don't have to worry about, where their food's coming from. They're not leaving their house at 15 or 16 years old. They're not living in a squat or something like that. They don't have mohawks. They don't have studded jackets, but they like punk music. They like the Ramones. They like the Sex Pistols. They like the Clash. They like the this, the that, the Descendants, Pennywise, stuff like that, right? And so they start their own band, but they don't have the same life. They're not the same problems. They don't have the same. So what are their problems? Their problems are literally girlfriends, your friends getting mad at you, school. Like that's their problem. So you write about what you're dealing with. That's what they're dealing with. So I understand why some of the super punk kids, but I'm like right on that line, dude. I kind of grew up my early years in the suburbs, but we were real poor. And then when I moved out, I moved straight to the city and was even more poor. And so like I kind of like walk both lines a little bit. So I like things from both sides of that. And I can appreciate this music. It really did put me in a better mood. It really did help me probably mentally and emotionally, like in ways that I couldn't really, articulate very well with words. But like, I know there's a change there because of this, because it is an overall happier music, dude. Look, man, a global threat's great. Casualties are great. But sometimes that stuff is not what I need. Dead Kennedys is just not what I need when I'm feeling like really crappy. I need something to pick me up a little bit, something to make me like giggle a little bit, something melodic, something to make me bob my head, dance around, ultimately go skateboard, go outside, go see my friends. That's what this did. And this album is incredibly important. It's important to a lot of people, man. And I think in 20 years, this album would be looked at with reverence from the punk rock community more than it is now. And I know there is a certain group of punk rockers that really appreciate this record. And for those people, thank you. For everybody else, I think it will ultimately end up being an album that people go, I hate to admit it, man, but yep, that album rips, dude. I think that's going to be a thing. And I think it's already kind of there. It's just, there's those, you know, anarcho punk types that just absolutely cannot stand anything that's fun. They just hate fun. Oh, it's very catchy. I hate it. Like I've definitely done that in the past in my life, so I can't say too much, but
Oh
I
yeah.
try not to. All right, man.
Okay,
What's your number 4,
so
brother?
let's keep this sort of chain of influence going.
Uh-oh.
I had the Ramones, who we can say eventually birthed Blink 182, but right in between, Blink 182 had to learn how to be losers from someone not named the Ramones. It was from this guy named Milo and his
Yeah.
trip to college at number 4 on my list. Similar to the Ramones, also you can argue had their best album was their debut album, and is also not a criticism of the rest of their catalog. But I think Milo Goes to College is fairly unique within their catalog for a couple of different reasons. It's actually the least, I don't know. So Ninth and Walnut is a pretty fun out. What it is, okay, you have some
I
of
like
the
that album.
you have like Frank Nevada and some of the older members before like the Descendants decided what they were going to be necessarily. I think they eventually on the you could say this album started pop punk, and there's a lot of arguments for that. But I think actually I think a lot of the pop punkers loved this album, and it wasn't a Black Flag album, so it didn't quite have that tone to it. But it's still a very dark album with a lot of very dark themes. But instead of like I'm the one so drunk, I'm the one so messed up, it's like I don't want to be like you. You're so drunk, you're so messed. It's more of the observation of the culture than the celebration
Dude,
Um,
very well said.
of it, and put in their own, which I did think appealed to, it appealed to a lot of, it appealed to the hardcore kids who are just like needing a relief from it, who just, we are all human, so I don't care how much of a blah, 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 blah guy you are. Eventually, you have some kind of outlet. You have some other type of emotion, or some other type of thing. And let's not get it twisted. It's not like the Descendants, especially on this album, aren't an extremely angry band. They absolutely are. It's just their anger isn't always necessarily like at this like nebulous kind of system and that kind of stuff. But I think like the poppier, more songs about girls really happened on the next album and on the middle stuff in the 80s, when Bill and Milo really got cooking writing this. These are more collections from the earlier years of songs. So there's a few, like there's literally the song Parents, which you would not think of it like this refined kind of pop song the way some of their last stuff. The Parents, why won't they shut up? Parents, they're so fucked up. Like that's as basic punk rock as you can kind of get with that
It really
real
is.
like rage to it. And I think the way, first of all, there are a few elements. One, we've talked about him before. Bill Stevenson, absolute maniac.
Love that guy.
And he had that. He produces really good stuff, and the Descendants obviously sound really good. But like, talk about busy drums. It's busy drums. The whole thing. Bill is going. I can't remember this. No, this wasn't Carl Alvarez. Maybe it's Nevada. That's the bassist before it. But like, known for just noodling on the bass like a guitar part. So you hear a lot of like lead bass lines throughout this album. And then with the guitar tone, they did do the Ramones thing with a lot of the full bar chords, so to make their sound really, really full. And then the funny thing is, like, I think people think Milo is like the spokesperson for all these songs, but lyrically, he writes very few of these songs. I think he only has like one lyrical credit on this album. These are all songs by Bill and the other guys, but they wouldn't be the Descendants without his ability to deliver them in the way that he pulls them off. And kind of like Joey Ramone in that he can sing, but he picks his spots of when he does it. And when, like, you look at a song like Silly Girl, that's like a straight up pop song that could be like a top 40 song in the way he can sing with it. And then you have a song like Parents where he's screaming at the top of his lungs, Parents, and it still has that youthful, that nerdy kind of energy he has. He can somehow express it through his voice, which is just an amazing thing. I love this band. I love this album. Very short too. You can listen to it in about 26 minutes and it flies by.
I I am a relatively new fan of the band. A lot of things have changed from my perspective with in regards to the Descendants. One thing is that I think they're the original suburban like actual punk band, and I think I don't know if I'm saying it the way we used to say it, but I think you and I used to argue about their influence on Blink 182.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see how you could possibly listen to this though, from at least now, and not like Dude Ranch. So like if you're sitting here going, "Oh, I like this," and then you're like 10 minutes ago you were like, "Ugh, Blink, Dude Ranch is stupid." Like I just don't see how you could possibly not see the connection between specifically those two records more so than those two bands' entire catalog. But yeah, dude, I do also think that's more like a hardcore record with different vocals, different lyrics, maybe different lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't used to think that. I used to think it was just punk. And somebody said something about, yeah, the Descendants are like a hardcore band, and I was like, what? I was just like, huh? And when I heard that, I can't unhear it. And so like I listened to it, and I was like, oh my goodness, they kind of are. They just have a different front man. Like there's not, it's not Henry Rollins, it's not Keith Morris, it's Milo Ackerman. It's like a different kind of guy. So I think they blend a lot of sounds together to get their sound. And I don't have a lot to say about them other than I'm glad I'm listening to them now, and I appreciate their music a lot more. Their first album probably is their best album. I couldn't put this on my list because it wouldn't make any sense, but I do recognize that this is a very, very good record, and it is very quick too. I like short records, dude. Under half an hour, I'm usually pretty happy with that.
22:10 it clocks in. I just looked it up.
Bro, there's so many records that are like 25 minutes or less that I just adore. 20 to 25 minutes is like the sweet spot. I'll take a Rancid 45-minute record. That's cool. But I'll also take their newest ones like 29 minutes. Like, I love it. Let's have short records.
It plays into like, I think of I probably listened to this. Like, it would be interesting to know which one I've actually listened to the most. But this one is definitely up there, and that length is part of it. Like, how many times have I just driven somewhere and in the length of that drive listened to this album?
Oh, dude, it's amazing. I like those. I like those albums. That your one way albums. Like what
Yeah.
album am I gonna? I like to find an album to listen to that's my one way trip length. Ooh, yes, sir. That is a great thing.
But if you
You get
get
the
there too soon, you ever
oh,
get mad?
I'll drive around
Yeah.
the block.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, dude. I need to hear the whole thing, bro. I don't
Because
want
I
to
know
stop early.
I'm not gonna continue listening to it when I get down.
No.
Probably.
Because
So
when you get, and then also when you
yeah,
get back in the car, you gotta put a different
I have
record
a
on.
different vibe. Yeah. Yeah.
You might throw on like a pop album or like a hip hop record. Who knows what you're gonna listen to, but it won't be that album. I guarantee you that.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. Hey, you like the Ataris, right?
Yep.
Chris Rowe, is that the singer?
Mhm.
Okay, I'll tell you why I asked you that in a little bit.
Mhm.
So number 4, I really struggled with this number 4 because it's my second favorite band, and I couldn't decide what album. I was like, they're all pretty much perfect. They've got 3 full lengths, and I literally couldn't tell you which one I like the best without having to sit down today. Literally today, I was like, I had it just written down, band name with a space next to it, and I was like, all right. And I just sat there, and I looked, and I looked, and I looked, and I finally decided that is Rumors and Headlines by One Man Army, because I think it's just the one that's, I think it just might be like a smidge better than their other 2 records. And I literally mean like a little bit. Like maybe there's a few bars that just make it a slight bit better than their other 2. But dude, I can listen to just about any song that this band has, and I just start pumping my fists in the air. I love his voice. Probably my favorite singer of all time is Jack Dalrymple. I just love the way it sounds. I don't know what it is about it, but yeah, dude. And I got to meet him, and he was really, really nice. And it was just like, it just made this even more important. But dude, One Man Army is a band. So I was at a tattoo shop in Cypress, Texas. I think it was called Brand X Tattoos, where I first started like working in the tattoo industry. And there was this little record store next door to it. And I'm so sad that they closed so fast, but they were there for like a year. And dude, this guy said, "You're the only guy that buys this shit." When I came in there and I was like buying punk CDs from him because they had
Mhm.
used CDs. And he goes, one day I walked in and I was like, he's like, "Hey man, I got a bunch of stuff. You want to take a look at it before it goes on the shelf?" And I was like, "Absolutely." And he goes, "I think you'll like this." And he pulls out, I want to say it was, let me look, hold on. I know exactly where they're at. Hold on. It's ridiculous that I could just walk over there and pick these 3 records up and know exactly where they are at on my shelf. They're that important to me. I have them on vinyl too, but it's easier to look at these. Let me look at the dates. I can tell you which one it was based on the dates. Okay, yeah. I'm pretty sure I said so Rumors and Headlines is their latest album of the 3. They started in 1999, I think. Or 98 maybe? No, it was 98, sorry. And they did Dead End Stories, right? It was on Adeline. And then I think, yeah, Last Word Spoken also came out on Adeline. But this one came on a BYO. That actually makes sense that this would be the one I like the most. But I think he handed me Dead End Stories. It was their first one. I think you'll like this. And let's see, what's the song? I can't remember exactly. Oh no. It was Last Word Spoken because it had Bootlegger song on it. And I remember playing it in my brother's truck. And he was like, "Bro, this band has got a different sound." And I was like, "I know." He's like, "I don't know what it's called." And I was like, "I don't know either. I just like it." And I went back and I said, "Hey man, do you have any more of these CDs by this band?" And he's like, "I don't know if they have any more CDs." And I ended up getting all 3, and they just stayed in rotation. And then in about 2000, see, it was for I think it was for this tour. I think it was 2002. They toured with the Necromantics. And I'm going to make a video pretty soon of the like 5 shows that changed my life. That is probably either number 2 or number 3. It's not the number 1 because number 1's very obvious to anybody that knows me, but it's either number 2 or 3. It was in Fitzgerald's downstairs. It was a small club. The ceiling was real low, and he embodied rock and roll, dude. Like honestly, dude, I think I was just gay for him that night. I was like, oh my god, this dude's so cool. Like he was just so dope. He was so awesome looking. He had dope clothes. He had awesome hair. He was like playing a guitar and screaming. And they also just put on a really great show. And I bought a shirt and I never looked back. And they've been like one of my favorite bands ever since then. But dude, I'm telling you, man, if you're not familiar with this band, just start here. And if you like this, you'll like everything. But every single song on this album is exactly where it's supposed to be. It sounds like it's supposed to sound. It's produced to the degree it's supposed to be produced. I actually saw the artwork. It's actually a painting. I saw the original painting. Actually, you were with me. We were at the Punk Rock Museum. Wasn't it you? It was you that, yeah. We were upstairs. Wasn't it you that was with me?
I don't think that time.
Not, no.
No.
Like, cause it was either the first or second time I went. Maybe it was Carissa. It was one of y'all. It was somebody was with, oh, maybe it was by myself. That I thought you were with me. But it was like I turned around and I was like, "Whoa!" And I knew exactly what it was. And I walked over to it, and it was the actual painting. It's like, I mean, it's pretty big, dude. It's like 2 foot, maybe 18 by 24, something like that. Pretty good sized painting. Anyways, yeah, I love that record. I couldn't tell you what my favorite songs on it are. Actually, I can't actually. Let's go with All Night Long. Oh man, Sleeper. And Victoria. Oh, SOS, they're all good, man. This album is fucking great.
SOS is a great song.
Oh, dude, it's so good. It's so good. Oh, dude, yeah. SOS, Victoria, and All Night Long are probably the best. All Night Long is probably like a top 5 song for me all time. That would be a hard list to make, like a top 10 songs. Like, I could just be top 10 rancid songs. That's still a hard list to make. But yeah, dude, that album it's fantastic, man. I love that record. I love that band. I wish they would do more, but I was so happy, dude, when I got to go see him play with Dead to Me and Swinging Utters both in one night in Las Vegas. The first night I got there, I literally was like, I can go home. I'm good. I'm done. I don't care. Cox Bar is it was a special experience, but that was a very, very cool night because there's also the night that I ran into him and met him on the street. He was just walking to the club, so was I. And I was like, "Hey, Jack," and he looked at. I was like, "Oh, dude, this is crazy, bro." I was like, "This is nuts, man. Freaking love doing all this stuff. I feel so lucky all the time now, man. My life is so weird." But yeah, man. One Man Army, rumors, and headlines. Let me know in the comments what is your favorite Jack Dalrymple like project, because it may not be this. It may be Dead to Me. What's your favorite album that he's done? He's done a lot. He did what was it? He did Revolts and then something else. Something TV or something. I don't remember. I've got it on CD somewhere. But anyways, yeah, let's move on.
All right. So this one, despite my hat and shirt today,
Are we in your top 3?
Yeah.
Oh, do you have? Oh, hey! Before we do top 3,
Yeah.
do you have any like honorable mentions you want to throw out there? A couple that you want to talk about that, and I'll do mine, and then we'll move on to your top 3.
Okay, so Dude Ranch was one of the ones that was like late into the. I still feel good about leaving it off there. I'm just glad you brought it up, so we had a chance to talk about it. You mentioned earlier Lagwagon. I wanted to put Haas on here, but it kind of just got crowded out. But Lagwagon's one that I think kind of suffers from. I like all of their albums kind of an almost equal tone, so it's hard for me to pick the one that really breaks out. So
I like the way you put that. That's while I don't really care for Lagwagon much, I totally understand what you're saying there with that band. Speaking about about Lagwagon,
and it's like it's funny. It's one of those that like I think any day of the week I could tell you which one is my favorite, and then so it doesn't feel as genuine to me in that kind of way. And then the other one, a band that we talk about a lot on here, was 24 Hour Revenge Therapy by Jawbreaker. I love that album, but the reason why I didn't put it on there is not that I've liked that album and I've really liked it for a long time, but ever since we did an episode on it about a year ago, it like never left the rotation of the things I listened to. So I didn't necessarily know like, is it really a top 10 all time album, or kind of, even though it's an older album, a top 10 right now? Like either way, it would still, maybe it would crack the top 20 or 25 either way. But I felt like there's a little bit of, even though it was over a year ago that we talked about it, it kind of has never left my consciousness since we talked about it. And I think I could make an argument to be close on this list, but I wouldn't take anything off for it.
Okay. So those are your honorable mentions, huh?
Yeah.
I got a few, so I'm going to make them quick. Uh, the most important one would be the first two Clash albums. The only reason that those didn't make it is simply because up until 8 months ago, I didn't even like the Clash. So even though I can, in retrospect, understand and admit how important those records are, they simply weren't going to get there for me. That's kind of like the Ramones thing. Like it wasn't different reasons, but like it just wasn't for me quite that the same thing. But they do bear worth mentioning both bands, the Ramones and the Clash. Pennywise, Land of the Free is another. And when I said the Clash, I meant the first two albums. I feel like that's pretty obvious, but whatever. Let me specify. But Pennywise, Land of the Free would be my Pennywise album, but it just didn't quite make it. If this is a top 20 list, it would definitely be on there. A Global Threat, Until We Die almost made the list. That album is pretty good. I actually put The Unseen because I wouldn't have got to A Global Threat without Unseen. And so I was just like, that album is just a little more important to my journey. Even though if I had to pick which album was better, like today, I might go with Until We Die. But that's not what we're talking about. And then lastly, it was so hard to not put 5 Rancid records on this list. But Troublemaker and Let's Go are my 2 and 3 of Rancid albums. So those would be in my top 15. Probably sitting at 11 and 12 if I didn't want to put them at 6 or 7. I think that Let's Go, obviously I care about that album a lot. I got it tattooed on my head a few weeks ago, and that was a big step, dude. That was like I had to like really think about that, like, do I want this on there forever? And I was like, fuck yeah, I do. But Troublemaker, I have converted a lot of people to that album because what I've found out is that a lot of people never listen to it. You can't say it sucks if you've never listened to it. So, go listen to it, man. It is a really good album. Now, if you listen to it a few times, at least let's say if you listen to it 3 times and you still think it's no good, I will concede that maybe you just don't like the same things that I like, and that's cool. But if you go, I listened to it like half a time and I don't like it, that's ridiculous. It's a really good album. And then the last thing I'll say is that the one band that's missing from this that is always on my top lists is Alkaline Trio. And it is kind of because of what you said about Lagwagon, is because I couldn't decide which album would fit on here. But if I'm honest about it, it's From Here to the Infirmary, because that's probably my favorite one. It's the one that got me really, really into the band. And I also think it might be their best one. But it's a coin toss, that Good Morning. But like From Here to the Infirmary is probably one that would be in my top like 15 or 20 albums if we went that deep into it. But yeah, I got through that a little faster than I thought I might. So that's good. But those are my honorable mentions. So, okay, top 3 for you, and then, or we'll do your number 3 and we'll, continue the.
Okay, so number 3 for me, as I said, I thought about wearing the shirt for number 1 today just to troll things, but I thought that was a little too new on the nose. So you know what? In the spirit of no effects, I'll wear the band that finished in 3rd place on this list.
That is the spirit of no effects too.
Yes, celebrating 3rd place with Punk and Drum. The album that famously Brett sent him a half gold record because it sold half as much as Rancid and The Offspring and all of that stuff.
That's funny.
So and it's one of those things I always have to check myself with this album. Do I think it's my favorite album because it's the consensus like No Effects album, or do I actually like it? But then I go through the song listings. I go through it just to what do I listen to a lot, and it's another one that just constantly, like, if I want to listen to No Effects, I generally put that one on first, and then kind of figure out where I'm going to go for there, because it's kind of like my baseline of where I'm at, and oftentimes, I will stick with it. Obviously, I've talked about it before. Linoleum is my favorite song that's not on And Out Come the Wolves. That can be considered like a favorite song. So it's right up there in terms of like songs that I truly value. Leave It Alone is a classic No Effects song that comes right after that. I really like The Cause, Don't Call Me White. Perfect Government, I think, is an underrated one. The Bruise, if you are just learning how to play guitar, bass, or anything like that, want to play kind of a fun punk rock song, The Bruise is a very, very simple song to learn. Dying Degree, Fleas, and I think The Crown Jewel, as I've talked about a million times, Lori Myers. I absolutely adore that song. And I'm liking it even more as time goes on for some odd reason. And really that the whole back part of this record, Lori Myers, Jeff Wears Birkenstocks, which is just a funny play on Jeff Abarta, the Epitaph employee. Punk Guy, which I think is another hilarious song, mixing that up. Happy Guy, nice religious commentary in there. And then I consider Rico the closer of the album, even though Scavenger Type is sort of the weird acoustic song at the end. And NoFX has a few of those weird acoustic ones to end, but I think Rico really is like the closer and starts out with the slower like ska strumming and hits into that real skate punky part. Most people, or a lot of people, have considered this like the crowning jewel of like skate punk music. Like it's the skate punk album, and that album. I wasn't around back then, so I can't really like. I don't really have that same perspective. But I have listened to NoFX for the last 25 years or so, and over time, it still comes out as my favorite album by them by a pretty wide margin on it. Well, I say that another honorable mention could have been Pump Up the Volume, and because that's right around that 11-12 range for me. But like I realized that with some of my bigger bands, it's some of these top heavy albums, I have so much investment in them that I would probably objectively rank their other albums a little bit closer, but like in my head I hold such esteem for some of these albums that sometimes I create a little bit of space where there doesn't necessarily need to be. To me, the Quas might be the only one that I have to skip on this one, and which like on a top 10 album top 10 list there shouldn't be a lot of skippable songs, but NoFX tends to have a lot of songs and a lot of weird stuff on their album, so you do have some skips kind of on everyone. But this one for me right now, I think if it's one of those I have to be on a deserted island and take an album, I think if you ask me that question like in a pinch and I can't think of an outcome, the Wolves, I'll take this one.
Yeah, man. I hate to like piss on somebody's parade, but like hot take here, man. That's not even in my top 5 NoFX albums, man. I just don't care about that album like everybody else does. I don't think it's bad at all. Like I would even say I do think it's great. I just think that they grew so much within a few years of this album that I was like, oh, they're like a different band now. They're like way better. And I put that into the like old NoFX style. And NoFX is also one of those bands that like they have a lot of great songs on albums that are good. I don't think they have a single album, even my favorite album of theirs, that has no skips.
Mm-hmm.
In every one of these albums that I'm looking at right now, I'm looking at all of them. I think all of these albums on my list for me are no skip albums for me. And I can't put an album like even with The Unseen being at number 10 with I don't like the last song, I'd still rather listen to that than a few songs off of the Punk and Drublic album. And if I had to pick a NoFX album, it would have to be I Heard They Suck Live, because that's the first one that I heard that got me into the band. And it's kind of like an amalgamation of all their albums put into one. It's almost like a greatest hits thing. And it is a really great album. But like, I don't know, man. They suffer from not having albums that are skipless. Like every album's got like a couple of songs where I'm like, oh, really? Like every single one, even my favorite albums, dude. And I always have, whenever I tell people the ones that I don't like, it's always like really popular songs. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just a dummy, but I do. When in my head, I think of Punk and Drublic and I go, yeah, I don't really care about it. But when I go listen to the record, it is much better than I remember it being. I don't know what that means or why that happens, but I am mature enough to be able to say like, yeah, dude, when I listen to it, it's better than I remember it. But if you just ask me on any given day, I don't know how many times you'd have to ask me, hey, we want to hear a NoFX album? And if I said yes, which one? Before it would be Punk and Drublic. I mean, that'd probably be 60 days of me saying yes to that before I picked Punk and Drublic, which in high school, it was like very obviously their best album. So I think that's what people remember. Is they remember that it was their best album. I don't think that it is their best album anymore, but I'm probably wrong. So what are your favorite songs on there? Linoleum is definitely.
Yeah, I'll go Linoleum, The Cause, Don't Call Me White, Perfect Government, The Bruise, Dying Degree, Lori Myers.
The whole album, huh?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, because don't Call Me White is a song I actively dislike. Lori Myers is like a pretty good song, but I don't like it much. I don't really have any feelings on it. It's like whatever. The Bruise I really enjoy. Jeff Wears Birkenstocks is on that album. I made my daughter a tie-dyed Rancid shirt just because of that song. So like, but like, no, man. I mean, like that album. While I just feel like people think it's so great, and I'm just like, okay, dude, I get it. It's a good album, but I don't think it's that great. So it makes me want to go, it sucks. But that's ridiculous. It doesn't suck. That's legitimately absurd. It does not suck.
Well, for me, that's why I have to constantly reevaluate it to make sure I'm not just like doing that. Like, well, it's their best album, of course, because it is the conventional wisdom, and
Right.
I do try to like push against that, except for like when I just completely follow the herd with that one. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that I need to just shut up about it at this point. It is what it is. It's a great album. I just don't like it as much as everybody else does. But it's a good album. If it came on right now in my house, like would I turn it off? Come on, man. Of course not. That's silly. Like that's so silly. And Linoleum, look, dude, that's the one song that always pulls me back to that album because it's so damn good that it's like, okay, look, dude, it might not be my favorite, but it's got Linoleum on it, and that has to hold a lot of weight. Like that just by itself is it's big. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
That song is a big song, man. That's about as good. That's about as like iconic as you can really get with a punk song that's actually a punk song. You may
Mm.
get a little bit bigger with a pop punk song to some degree, but like an actual punk band, that's about as big as you're gonna get, in my opinion. Let me pull up the thing real quick because I want to just glance over the song listing one more time before I switch over to my third one. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, there's a few songs that I don't really care for on this one. Um, I wonder why I don't care about Lori Myers. I think maybe it's just overplayed. I don't think it's a bad song at all. Hmm. Yeah, I've got one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight of the songs out of 17 are on my my personal list, which is that's how I usually judge an album. Like how many songs are on my personal I'm driving by myself playlist. Because on that playlist, it is only songs that I know I'm gonna like. So when it
Mm.
comes on, I don't want to skip it. So even there's even some rancid songs that are not on that playlist. So this one's only got 8 out of 17. So, but like I said, man, this is pretty iconic, dude. I remember seeing the cover for it and not really understanding what it meant. I still to this day, I'm like, what's up with the cover of this album? But I love the name. The title of this album is kind of perfect. It's pretty amazing title.
Yeah, pretty perfect too for them, like
It's it's
as a thing
amazing.
that'll just stay on you. And I mean, they named their festival after it and everything.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's valid, dude. Valid. Like there's enough on this record that's like really amazing that I have to tip my cap to it. I just don't pick it on my days to pick the album necessarily, but I really do. I do think it's a really kind of the name Pumpkin Drublick is pretty perfect. I remember the first time I heard that, I went, huh. Like I was like, that's cool. Like I remember immediately thinking that was cool. So I got to give it to that album. It definitely got me into this band more because I heard it. Don't suck, I heard that they golly, I heard they suck live, and then I was like, oh man, that's pretty great. And then somebody told me, yeah, like half that album is on this, or half this is on that, and they handed me that album, and I listened to it, and I didn't quite get the same vibe from it because I really enjoyed that live album, which is funny because I don't typically like live albums. But I think I'll go back and give old Pumpkin Drublick a listen pretty soon. It's about time for me to spin it again. I'm gonna shut the fuck up about it. All right, number 3 is Operation Ivy's discography on CD. Um, I don't feel like I should have to say much about this. Uh, it's Operation Ivy. It's it's arguably the number one. Like it's one of these things where it's so annoyingly good that you're like, will I ever get tired of listening to this? And I'm like, I don't think I will, man. Like I do 3 streams a week, and I don't know that very many of those go by without at least one Operation Ivy song. And it's hard for me to pick just one because they're so short. It's
Mhm.
another example of an album that's got like objectively poor recording quality, but it fits so perfectly. It sounds exactly the way it should. It should
Mhm.
not sound any different. If it sounded any different, it would be weird. Um, I don't know if this is even going to be on your list or not, but bro, I tell you, it is. It's kind of a cheat code because I could kind of put this on there instead of a second Rancid album. Except that this might actually be ranked higher than my second favorite Rancid album.
I think my brain did that when I made my list. Is I kind of categorized it as a Rancid album, which it deserves its own spot. Like it's unique enough, you know.
Well, since they have a completely different singer, that's usually what
Yeah.
I make. That's usually how I go. Well, it's Jesse singing, not Tim or Lars or even Matt. But Look at this list of songs. Like, give me a break, dude. Like, what are we doing, man? 27 bangers in a row. 51 minutes. Not a single time do I go, yeah, can we just skip this one? It doesn't happen, dude. Like, it's not perfectly flat plane. There's ebbs and flows, right? There is no skip. And for an album of this length, and it's just the one, they only got the one. I don't know, man. It's pretty remarkable.
I can't believe they were this young when they did that too.
Bro,
That's
it blows
insane.
my mind, dude. It makes me so sad that I didn't do more with my life. I'm like, what am I doing?
Yeah, you should really like listen to this album and feel bad about yourself. Like,
Yes.
you really should.
And then listen to it a second time and go out and do something positive.
Yeah, because it's very uplifting. The songs are pretty uplifting. So,
dude, it's like political without being political. Does that make sense? Like, this is dude. I don't even know where to start with my top songs on this album. It's just my top songs are like the album. Just listen. This album is okay. There's only a handful of albums in my whole life that do this, right? Maybe like I'm gonna say like generously 10, probably closer to 5. That whenever I listen to any song off the album, no matter what it is or what I'm doing, where I'm at, as soon as that song is over with, in my head, the next song starts playing. This is one of the few albums that do that.
Yeah, because you're like waiting for it when it. Yeah.
I know it so well that I can't listen to one song without already humming the next one as soon as it's done. Let's see. If I had to pick a few, oh man. Okay, let's see. Dude, can you pick 3 songs off this?
So Knowledge, obviously, because that to me that's like one of those like tentpole punk songs. Unity. And then probably Room Without a Window, if I had to like narrow him down.
Wow, that's not what I thought you were going to say. I'll be honest, the first 2 I was like, come on, those are generic, but like Room Without a Window, huh? So, okay, I don't think that Knowledge is on my top 3. I like that song a lot. Obviously, this is one of my favorite albums, period. But it's not my top 3. I like it. Sound System is better than Knowledge, in my opinion. Let's see. They're all so good, dude. I know, right? I'm like, I guess. Is it? Like, I think that if I had to pick my personal top 3, it would probably be Gonna Find You, Officer, and Caution, maybe? And then Sound System, and then Knowledge, and The Crowd. Bro, The Crowd is so good.
The Crowd might be one that I should have said there.
I like the way you said that. You're
like,
the
Crowd and Freeze Up are the 2 that I'm looking that could have made the cut.
Freeze Up's pretty good, man. I don't know. That's dude. Officer's one that people don't usually get that far in the album before they turn it off because it's pretty long. Officers, I think, is a very underrated song. Healthy Body, Sick Mind. Healthy Bodies. That's so good, bro. Sleep Long. Oh, dude, so good, bro. Yeah, Big City is a song I really love. Caution, I remember being as a kid, CAUTIO is what I could not understand. Bro, I just remember being like singing it in my mom's car. And she's like, what are you yelling about back there? And I'm like, what? Huh? Got my stupid big ass headphones on. What? Huh? Yeah, dude. Oh man, Freeze Up. Dude, Gonna Find You is really good. This whole record is so perfect, dude.
And it, like,
Operation Levy, man.
Like even like Bad Town, like the intro to it is always just so weird when it feels like they're just kind of like figuring out what to do with the instruments and then they bring it to the song. Yeah, there's not really a bad song.
This album is pretty perfect, man. I think any 3 songs you want to pick could be your top 3. The only one that I think might not. Okay, I think is Bank Shot the instrumental.
I think so. He just says Bank Shot.
Yeah, I think Bank Shot, and then was it what's it called? The Boots Are Made for Walking song. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
That song is because it's a cover.
Yeah.
But
it's also a cover like a million other bands have done too. So that's
right. I think, but that tells you they were kids when they did this. Although their version's probably the best. The vocals on that are so, dude. Yeah, All right, that's enough. We don't need to talk about this anymore. It's obvious that why this is where it's at. Okay, number two for you, buddy. What you got?
All right, you didn't put it on your list, but so I saved it for number two, and that would be From Here to Infirmary by the Alkaline
I
Trio.
was wondering if you're going to have Alkaline Trio on there somewhere, and I was like, man, I felt bad about not having them,
I
but
just really
like,
wanted to smile and smirk when you were saying that. And I was like, oh no, it's coming. Yeah. So for a long time, this has always been because we know what number one is. This has always been my number two album.
do we though? Do we?
Yeah, we do. It's not so this just the way I said like Magnolia was the best song that's not on that album. I've always considered this the best album that wasn't that album. Um and to me like it always has been. Not well. I was thinking I got into Good Morning. I got into Good Morning first. That was the first album that I bought, and I heard some other songs. But then when I got Here to Infirmary, I was just like, I was hooked, and it was every single song. And I remember like being a teenager driving around in my truck, and I had like a lyrical frame of what in my mind every one of these songs was about. It was one of those, kind of things. Because there's a lot of like personal aspects. And it's funny because like I was a kid. I think some of these songs are probably a lot more relatable to me now as an adult and gone through a little bit more life than they were back then. But that's part of the appeal of like Alkaline Trio. Like they're very cool for like a 16-year-old, and then they're very deep for like a 40-year-old to read. Like they can kind of check both of those boxes. Private Eye was one of the first songs that I really had ever heard by
So
them
good.
outside of Good Morning. The little crappy band I was in at the time, we used to do Private Eye. I say we used to do, our guitar player would really do a good part of Private Eye, and the rest of us would try to keep up. Mr. Chainsaw to me is one of their more underrated songs. I think it gets, I don't know if it's underrated because a lot of people like it, but it gets swallowed up a little bit under Private Eye, and it's often played like in pair with it. But like I remember I used to sit with the lyric. I want to say it was a lyric booklet of this that I used to sit and just read and read and read. And then the ending part where he says, "In case you're wondering, we're singing about growing up and giving in." Again, I don't know
Yeah.
why 17, 18-year-old me just thought that was the coming of age moment when when I was hearing that. Take Lots with Alcohol, I've gone back and forth with. That was one of the early songs that I had heard, and I didn't think it was so great at first. It took me a little while to warm up to some of the dance songs, but over time, I really appreciate like the humor in that song. I've talked about it before. Stupid Kid was the song that I would kind of groan at, even though it's objectively a great song. But then the album really kicked into gear for me with Another Innocent Girl. I've always tried to like decode exactly the meaning of those lyrics for years and years. Still haven't quite got there yet. But I'm working on there. Steamer Trunk, another great one. You're Dead. One with the story that I just like. I want to know more of the story of what happened because I've been so engaged with the song. Armageddon, obviously a fun banger.
Oh, dude, that song rules.
I back in the day, I remember it being like on a Warp Tour compilation. And like, there's not every Alkaline Trio song can represent Warp Tour well, but Armageddon absolutely could. And then I said what I said about Dan, and then I would completely every time I listen to this take this back with "I'm Dying Tomorrow" because they had that perfect blend of like it's basically. It's basically a song about maybe taking your life the next day or whatever you're gonna do, but there's such a happy tone to it of all the things you're gonna do, and it's almost got like this 1950s like that I remember to kiss the prettiest girl at the right time, but also to like lick the electric light bulb and to drink all of the beers and say lots of prayers and commit irreversible sins. Like only Alkaline Trio could have those kind of lines in that kind of song. And then the bottom three, Blooded Up, Trucks and Trains, and Crawl specifically. I've always had a special spot in my heart for Crawl. I like this version, but I also like some of the live versions that they do when Matt sings a lot more with the song. And I've always just thought it was a weird analogy for like being hungover and all kinds of weird. Figuring out Alkaline Trio's lyrics is just based on your own individual maturity. I realize because it's when you're young and they're about one thing. When you're older, they're about a completely different thing. I'm sure Skiba wrote them about completely obscure things that none of us are thinking about. But I've really grown with this record over the years, and it has had multiple meanings at different times for me, and what the songs mean and how they are presented. And I guess it's kind of a combination of some people put Good Morning and this one and maybe Crimson in kind of a spot of like their peak sort of middle years. I tend to categorize this one a little bit more with maybe I'll Catch Fire and the
Okay.
earlier stuff, but I don't think it's that important. I think this was a good mesh up to like Good Morning is great, but it's almost they become extremely like metaphorical and big and mythical in the way they sort of approach things on Good Morning, where this is still they're still like
Still a
regular
punk
pop.
album.
Yeah, the regular like pop punk band to me. I guess they haven't really when people started calling them emo, which is like that's kind of a weird term for them, but how people started to think of that, I think that starts with like Good Morning and that way of presenting themselves. This is the end
I
and kind of the transition to that.
I understand the emo tag. I don't agree with it, but I understand it. It's usually an aesthetic call
Mm-hmm.
out. It's not like a you can't listen to this band and call them emo.
I think
You might call them like pop punk or like new wave or post punk even, but like not emo. They don't
I
sound
think it
like an
could
emo
apply
band.
to those mid 2000s albums. I think you
Maybe.
can, but again, it would probably be more post punk or that sort of. And again, it's got a lot of like 80s stuff into it and all that. But and to my point to that, this stuff has none of that. This stuff is still like the darkness and the lyrics are there, and the imagery was always kind of there with them, but they hadn't come to, I guess, artistic. And I'm saying that almost in a derogatory way because I like this better than that stuff. But I guess that's kind of what it was. That's kind of what we do with the emo thing. Anything that's kind of like artistic in nature, we sort of do categorize as like that emo kind of category.
Because it is. Dude, I gotta apologize, man. I like completely got like blindsided a minute ago. I wasn't trying to be rude. Anybody that's watching this that thinks I was, I apologize. I just like my phone lit up and I went to go like hit like ignore it and it was an email, dude. And I just caught like the last few words of this and it blew my mind. This dude says, I'm here to be your brother and support your business. Whites need a brotherhood. So I had to look at this. I was like, what is this dude talking about? And I was like, is he talking to me? And I was like, what makes you think that that's something I want to hear? And then I realized who this guy is. Anyways, I just wanted to apologize because I like looked down for like a solid 30 seconds, maybe more. And I was listening to you, but I was trying to figure out like what is going on with this? Who sent me this? Um, anyways, yes, I do agree with that album being picked, and I do agree with that they changed it like it's very much like the Bounce of Souls record, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's very similar to that. It was really hard to not put this album on my list as well. Alkaline Trio is a band that I love. I'll get a tattoo of them probably on my head at some point.
That's a good investment,
dude. It hurts. Hey, you think you can guess my number 2?
No,
No.
because you already put your one man army out there.
Yeah, I knew I'd throw you for a loop with that one.
So yeah, no, I'm stumped. It's gonna be super obvious or super like dumb or something.
As soon as I tell you, you're gonna go, oh.
Yeah, what is it?
It's Shock Troops.
Okay.
Yeah, right. It's like, oh,
Okay,
that never mind. That makes sense. Yeah,
Nah.
dude, it's Shock Troops. It's honestly, 3, 2, and 1. As much as I still stand behind their placing, anybody that wanted to go, yeah, I rearranged that, I'd be like, hey, okay. I think sure. Shock Troops is such a perfect album that it's irritating. I wish I had gotten into it when I was 14. Like, it's so good. Like, I listened to it a lot more than I want to admit, dude. I listen to that album a lot, dude. I wonder because I don't really listen to it on Spotify. I listen to it on CD that I've got. But I wonder if I could track how many hours I spent on that album in the last, let's say, 2 years. Because, like, I rediscovered them, like, probably 3 years ago. I hadn't listened to them much. You know, they were, like, in kind of my rotation. But one day I wasn't watching, I was, like, doom scrolling on TikTok. And there was this, like, I hate to say it like this, but, like, conventionally unattractive girl that was, like, cool. Like, I thought I was like, that chick's probably pretty cool. But she was singing, like lip syncing to Cox Bar while she was like getting ready for work. And she had like bright green hair. And she had this big gap in her teeth. And I was like, man, she's like not attractive, but I'm attracted to looking at her. Like she's interesting looking.
Yeah. She's like engaging. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was like, man. And I was like, dude, I haven't heard that song in forever, dude. And I was like, man, what album was that on? And I went back and I found it. I was like, oh yeah, it's on Shock Troops. And I listened to that album one time and it just completely came back to the front of the row for me. I was like, oh man, I forgot how good this was. Like I didn't get into them in my high school days. I got into Cox Bar probably in around age 20, maybe 21 even. Like it was later. It was a girl had a shirt on and I was like, what is this? And I listened to it and I was like, oh, I get it, but I'm surprised you like this because it didn't sound like what you thought it was going to sound like. But this album is one of those ones. They've got 8 albums total, right? They've got 2 albums that are hard to argue with if somebody put them in like the top 5 of all time. Because Forever, Cox Bar Forever is like their later album that is also like song for song. It's just that Shock Troops came out first, and it's been around longer, so it's been that album for longer.
Mm-hmm.
But if you reversed them and when they came out, then Forever would be the Shock Troops album. It would be the same thing. Um, yeah, when I saw them play live, they played most of Shock Troops, and it was a very emotional experience. Um, every single song is good on this album. On this album, dude. You listened to it recently?
Yeah, we did an episode on it.
Okay, I can't remember if it was you or Nitty. Honestly, I get things mixed up very easily because I'm retarded. So, where are they now? It's one of those weird songs that it could be the opener or it could also be the closer, and it's like and it fits both really well. I'm not going to go into a deep talk about this because, like you said, we did a video on it recently, but I don't know. It's kind of hard to argue it's not the best album ever. It's not okay, but it's really hard. It's really hard to argue, man. I think it could easily be, and it's 13 songs at uh, basically 38 minutes. It's weird, 37 minutes, 37 seconds. That's odd. Uh, but I don't know. I don't know, man. It's kind of an iconic album. The cover's iconic, and I mean, there's like out of all what out of all the songs, there's probably half the record could be like the goat of all songs. Like it's got that many like absolute classic bangers. It's crazy, man. I got your number. Uh, England belongs to me. Where are they now? Riot Squad, take them all. We're coming back. I mean, working like every single song on this album is so ridiculously good, man. Yeah, dude. Number 2 for me, brother. Um, I wonder if anybody is curious of what our number 1 is.
I don't know. You think they're waiting with bated breath?
I don't know. It's the only thing that we just absolutely agree on. Like, there's not much that we just go, "Yep."
Mm.
Number 1 in 3, 2, 1. Rancid and Out Come the Wolves. That is our number 1. Our
Consensus.
number 1.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's the official like position here.
Yeah.
That is the number 1 album ever.
All time.
I was thinking okay, so that's the only album, and I don't know if it was for us doing this or just because I listened to a lot. It's the one I consciously though listened to this week from this list.
That you didn't listen to?
No, that I did.
Oh,
I actually listened. I actually listened to the A side on my vinyl yesterday as I was just doing stuff, and I ran out of time, and I just had that, and I was like, okay, we're gonna do that. But so I was driving around town running errands in some pretty deep traffic, and I put it on, and I was like, all right, let me go through. And I love Maxwell Murder, 11th Hour. I've talked about Roots Radicals, my favorite song of all time. I'm going through Time Bomb, and I wanted to switch it. I was like, oh no, has it finally happened? Have I finally lost this album as like being just unbelievable for me? And is this going to be the wrong time that we're going to talk about these albums? It's going to lose it for me. And then they went into Olympia. And I felt like Olympia, in a good way, lasted like 20 minutes as I was just going through it, singing the part. Like as the drive went on, I became completely engaged. By the time I got to like Listed MIA, I was like, no, there is no doubt this is the greatest album of all time. This hooks me like no other album. It's an album that I've listened to for so many years that these songs have taken on different meanings over different times.
is that wild?
It is, and it's interesting because like the artist made the song with one kind of specific meaning in mind. It's very personal to that art that they may or may not share, and we all take all these meanings. But it's like, I guess like if I was back in like the Renaissance era and there was a painting I loved when I was 16, and then when I was 70, I looked at it again and it would have a different meaning to me. I guess it's the same kind of freaking thing, and I think like lyrically I dive into the album a lot more than I did before, because before it was like more about them just being like really cool songs and really liking the vibe of them, and now like a song like Daily City Train, like that one gets me every time, just like the lyrics and the way. And I think that's what it is about this album in general, is it's a very like sad and emotional album, despite its tone as being kind of this upbeat ska, but like it's very like, I don't even know. It's not like a downer, like end of society kind of album. it's
listen to
just
what the album title means. This album came out, and they wrote this album during a hectic part of their life when they were becoming men, or they were men, but they were still young men, and so there was like a lot of things happening that were important, and a lot of like very pivotal points in their life. And I understand what you mean. It is a heavy album. I wouldn't say sad's heavy.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, it's very weighty. Like
oh,
the songs are just yeah.
just for anybody that's in the comments that's about to roast you, yeah, we know it's Daly City. He said Daily. Stop it. Um, but I just, as soon as you said it, I could just hear somebody in the comments being like, meh, 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 and I'm like, stop, bro.
So yeah, so the
Uh,
way I've been pronouncing that song for 30 years, the way that we all continue to pronounce it, commenters.
oh, you really said Daily on purpose?
Yeah, no, I've just that's just
Oh shit, whatever. Who
yeah.
cares? You can call it "Fart in a Fucking Box" if you want to. I don't care. That song is also one of my favorite songs. Like it's the one that people go, that one. I'm like, yeah, I love that song. So here's something that happened to me this year. And I've got tinnitus. My ears like really ringing right now,
Mm.
like bad, bad. Ah. Um, this year the album turned 30, so I did a video on it, like a long video on this record. I went through every single lyric on this album. I hadn't done that in so long. Like there was a lot of lyrics that I was like, oh yeah, I forgot that's what he's saying, because he sounds like he's saying
Mhm.
sometimes, and he's not. Um, when you get into this album and you start listening to it, and you start reading the lyrics with it, you really understand what a poet Tim Armstrong is. And I think that Lars, while he's also his 1A, I think he's happy to step back a little bit, and then when they play live, he steps up a little bit.
Mhm.
I don't know if everybody will agree with that. I might be wrong, but it seems to me like that's kind of what happens is like in the writing process, he takes a little bit step back, and then when they play live, it's when he really shines. Lars, while I think Tim is the brain, I think that Lars is the glue and Matt is the foundation. So I think that's how this band is built. You know, um, this album means more to me than any record that'll ever be made. Period. Like it literally changed my life. It literally saved my life. Like I can't think of anything that is so easy to go that one than this. There's nothing on this world that I like as much as I like Out Come the Wolves, other than my wife and my kids. That's it. Wife, kids, Out Come the Wolves. And Pedro. Sorry, Pedro. My bad, buddy. But like, he's a kid essentially, so he falls into that group. But you know what I'm saying though? Like family, Out Come the Wolves, dude. Like I still get people that be like, bro, Rancid shirt, really? At 2025? I'm like, yeah, dude. Like, I have like 10 of them. I wear them all the time. They're awesome. Like, they're fucking so cool. The band's so rad, dude. Like, I'm even to the point now where I can't even like fathom what Tim looks like without a beard, but I'm still like, no, Out Come the Wolves. Like, they're still awesome. This band's so rad. I am convinced that I will get Lars on the show at some point. I haven't asked yet because I'm not courageous enough to do so yet, but I will. Probably around 12K is kind of what I've given myself, so it's coming up quick. But yeah, man, this band's awesome. That record's amazing. It's so good, dude. It's you know what I hate and like at the same time. Like at the exact same time. I love that so many people agree with this, and then I also hate it. How
Yeah.
stupid is that?
Yeah. It's very unpunk, I would say, for you and I to choose this as the greatest album of all. Like that's kind of like doing the thing that like when you see like one of these great lists of Rolling Stones and like the number one's always going to be like the most obvious thing, and we totally did that. But I stand behind it
I
100%.
almost put it as champion because I watch a lot of UFC and their
Yeah,
rankings are champion and then 1 through
yeah, you
10.
have a one, and then yeah,
I was
yeah,
gonna do that, but then I was like,
it's
Rob's
basically a
not gonna.
top 11 if you do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much. Yeah.
Well, because it anytime we do these lists, right, like it does sort of like kill the drama of the end because like that's what it's gonna be. But I don't care. Like I don't care how much that gets reinforced. Also, like it's fine.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me at all, dude. Like
I,
it's the one thing that you and I constantly agree on. We
yeah,
consistently agree on this. We never argue about it, and we need that one thing that we can always latch onto. Like no matter what we're bickering about, we can be like, well, we still this is still the best album. Like, I may not like the No Effects one like you like it, and you may not like the Cox Bar the way I like it, but we both agree that this is the great. And that's important to me, man.
it's yeah, and it's yeah, there's a certain if you like this album like genuinely, there's a certain we can be friends aspect to that. I'm being kind of sarcastic, but also like not really because like
I
there's a
totally understand that.
yeah, and it's funny because it probably visibly it's like the album that most people have encountered Rancid on and listened to, and which again generally is a marker of something
It
that is
depends on how old you are, man, because I have run a record store for quite a few years now, and I can tell you that Indestructible
that's true.
is probably as big as Out Come the Wolves on a different level.
That's true.
It's
And and
weird, man. And once I
and
started
both of them,
realizing that, I was like, "What?"
yeah, that's hard to think about, but also like it's just a matter of scale. Even if like Out Come the Wolves in the history, like in like music history, Out Come the Wolves is probably thought of as like that was like a pretty big album for 1995. And Indestructible, not necessarily, but when you have everything that was in place in 2003 and like how big the genre was, instead of the genre breaking like it was
Right.
at this when the genre is already broke. Yeah, I do know a lot of young people who would be like, oh yeah, you Rancid, they have the Fall Back Down song, and I'm like, okay, you heard that on TRL and '03, which and then if we did this podcast in a different generation, we'd be talking about like, can you believe so many people don't know Op Ivy and they only know about this Out Come the Wolves record and this Ruby Soho?
Dude, I'm at the point where I get to talk to people that are on all of those things. I got the
Mm,
people that like Out Come the Wolves, and we're all like about the same age. And then I have the old heads that don't even really care for Rancid, but they love Op Ivy. And then I got the young kids that don't know nothing about Op Ivy, which blows my mind. But like, yeah, man. It's funny because the only reason that in the only context that this would be deemed like kind of corny is within the punk rock world, like within our small little group.
mm.
Because if you go out into the world, if you are out just doing your daily business and you see somebody with an Out Come the Wolves shirt on, you automatically go, teammate,
Mhm.
immediately. You're like, oh, homeboy, friend, like-minded individual. Immediately. That happens immediately.
It's like
So,
it's like an ID. I say that when I wear like punk rock clothes anywhere because it's like a secret handshake that you just kind
right.
of
And
yeah.
so, like, it may be a little silly to our little tiny group, but when you go out into the real world, that is a sign of a person that you can trust. You go, oh, I probably like that person. All right. At least enough to, if I need something, I can go up to that person first and go, hey, also my favorite band. Could you help me with something real quick? And, they'll likely be more understanding. If I'm wearing my hoodie and somebody has a Rancid shirt on, we always go, it's always, yeah. Like, I'll wear a Dude, sometimes I look in the mirror and go, "What are you doing?" I have on like a Rancid hat, a Rancid shirt, and a hoodie that's got a Rancid back patch, and I'm like, "Oh, that's a little too much. I got to go change." Like, I'm like, yeah,
Yeah, I don't know why people wear multiple apparels of the same band. That's a
I
little
know,
funny
dude.
when
I
people do
make
that.
myself not do it though. I'm like, I cannot do that. I have like and I'm making a new hoodie right now. I'm so glad that I'm putting a Grimple back patch on it because I now can wear whatever shirt I want without
Well,
feeling
well,
stupid.
see, because I wear this hat like when it's one of like the 5 hats I wear. So when and I have like a few No Effects shirts, I feel like I'm in a costume right now. I feel like I'm in like a No Effects costume, kind of wearing 2 things of the same.
You are,
It is.
uh,
You know
yeah,
what?
dude.
One last thought on this album, though. I was just thinking about this. Okay, we talk about its status as a lot of people have heard it, but it's also kind of a cool little handshake between people. But if if you show a normie this album, I think it's objectively kind of a cool album too. Like you can get a normie into like you might have to pick your spots a little bit here or there, but I think like someone who just likes kind of cool music or hip music or whatever, you could show them Time Bomb or Journey to the End of the East Bay. Oh, that's kind of cool. That's kind of got like this cool like bohemian hip vibe that it does have. There's something I think eternally cool about this record too, despite us saying how corny
It
that it can be.
is.
There's a certain like timeless classicness to it that
No,
it
it
holds.
is, dude. It is cool. It is a cool record, man. The dudes look cool. The songs sound cool. The lyrics are catchy. They had rad clothes on when they made the music videos. Like this is a cool record. It's a moment in time. It's a time capsule sort of, right? But like if you're gonna go up to somebody and they're like, "Hey, what kind of music you like?" and you go, "I listen to punk," and then they go, "Oh, I've never heard punk. What is a good punk record? You want to give me a kiss? You want? Hey, what's a good punk record?" Sorry, one second. My lovely wife's going to bed. I love you. Um, and they go, "What's a good punk rock record?" And you're like, "Ooh, I got to be careful. I don't want to ruin this for them."
Mm-hmm.
It is really hard to argue that this isn't the right one, like because it's both well written, well produced, inarguably authentic punk rock.
Mhm.
You cannot. I don't care what, dude. If you want to piss me off, call this a pop punk record, dude. I I don't understand it. People call, oh, I don't like Rancid. I'm not into pop punk. I'm like, what does that have to do with what? Huh? That happens. I've heard that, dude. I've heard that a lot.
Yeah,
I think people are just trolling.
I only
Honest.
accept that if you were honestly like in your punk rock prime in '95. Like then I can accept that. If that's your
Meaning
take.
what? Like you were 25 years old in '95, and you'd have
Yes.
been listening to punk
A-
since you
a-
were 3.
yeah, basically. And you're just like pissed off because like it's dumb,
Because
but like
punk broke.
yeah, and you're like
Yeah,
pissed off that like you're
I can
getting
understand that.
like so if you're that guy, I get it. Especially like with this like this whole album is a reference to their like newfound fame and all
Yeah,
that. So
if you saw the Clash before London Calling, or you watched the Sex Pistols live when they were skinny and Sid Vicious was still alive, you got it. You can talk some shit.
yeah, but if you're
If
like
you
a if you're one of these born after 9/11s and you're gonna say I don't like Rancid because it's pop punk, like just go away.
Dude, there's hipsters are they running rampant on YouTube, man. This video is awesome in length. I love that it's 2 hours long. I am sad that I'm probably gonna have to watch it over at least once and edit
Yeah.
some imagery in it, but whatever.
That's how we used to record before, like, we decided not to spend hours
Yeah,
and hours doing it.
yeah. We try to do about 60, 75 minutes now, which is probably better in the long run, but this kind of video needed a long one. We hadn't
Like
had a real long talk in a while.
once every 6 months, we have these like 10 pull episodes. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, man. I don't know, because I'm not gonna see you again until after New York, because I'm going next Thursday. So I won't even get to talk to you till after I get back from that. Um, and for anybody that's still watching, we're doing a Pennywise versus Pennywise video next. We're also gonna do a Patreon version of that. So we're gonna listen to some songs on that video together, and those will be cut out for the YouTube version because I can't put them in. But if you're a Patreon member, any tier, I have two. I think I have $2, $5, $10. Any of those will be it'll be included. And then also, if you're a $10 Patreon member, you get a copy of the zine free every time it comes out. I'm doing a giveaway video tonight after we're done here. There's all kinds of Patreon stuff now. I got exclusive content. I do giveaways every month. We have a Discord, and I'm getting this like better content to go over there now. So like it's much more value for your dollar now. If you want to check it out, it's down in the description, but you certainly don't have to. Yeah, man. I think we had some pretty good lists, dude.
Mhm.
I think it's cool that neither of us really had much negative to say. I kind of did with the No Effects thing, but I wouldn't call it negative so much as just like my critique on that album is a little unique. I just think that whatever. My opinion is whatever it is. But
Yeah,
like,
these are generally the albums that people like. In
yeah.
general, these are well received, I think, albums within the community.
I think the one that's going to throw people off is probably X-Ray Specs because they didn't realize it was that important to me. And then Dude Ranch might get a little hate, but I don't care. Those are both albums that I love. I might go listen to X-Ray Specs tonight, bro. That young lady, man. I wish she was still around.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that you mentioned tonight that I haven't thought about in a while that I'm thinking like, yeah, that'd be some stuff to hit up.
What, like albums?
Yeah,
Nice, nice. Yeah, man. Get a chance. Listen to some Born to Lose. Listen to some One Man Army. Those are albums and bands that I think don't get near enough love. Specifically, those two. I don't think they get near enough recognition for as good as they were. I think Born to Lose. I wish I could go back in time and direct those guys because I think they could have been Texas's version of
I
like.
knew of them back in the day. I couldn't claim to have listened to them, but I feel like they were.
They got really lucky to have a really good band name. Like that band name was perfect.
That's such a perfect punk name too.
Yeah, dude, like that was a great name. But like they toured a lot, man. I would say that if I had to say successful or not, then I would say yes, they were successful. But I think they could have been like big. Like they were every bit as good as most of the bigger bands. They were every bit as good as a Fat Records band, in my opinion. And most of the stuff on Hellcat was same.
Very similar vibe.
Dude,
Yeah.
Dropkick Murphys aren't better than Born to Lose. Sorry, guys. Like they're more Irish, but they're not better. Like, anyways, I don't mean to like stick my nose up Chris's ass or embarrass him. And I don't mean to talk shit on Dropkick Murphys. I love that band. But like my point is that I really wish that those guys had, although I wouldn't be friends with Chris because they're going to be probably not even in the same state anymore. So I'm glad that I'm friends with Chris, but like I wish for his sake, because he's my friend, I wish that I could have let the right person hear their records. Because if the right person heard it, dude, I have to believe that Tim and Lars never heard those CDs. There's no way, because they would have absolutely reached out. Maybe they did. I gotta ask Chris about that. I feel like I would know. There's no way they could have heard that shit and not been like, ooh, this. Anyways. All right, everybody. This has been a marathon video. Man, thank you for y'all's time. Rob, it was fun, dude. I had a good time talking with you tonight, man. Thank you so much. Do you want to try to do around the same time, or you want to go a little earlier next time? Try to aim at 6.
Maybe
Aim
try
for
to
6.
do a little earlier. Yeah.
Okay. Stick to about an hour.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say let's stick to like an hour 20 so we can throw songs in it. But I'm
Yeah.
gonna try to stick to 80-minute like max, just because I want to keep it within reason, and I don't want you to have to sit here for 2 hours every couple of weeks. But thank you, man. Thank you so much. If you need anything, let me know, brother. Anybody else out there hanging out? Thank you guys for your time, your support. I almost said your respect, but I was like, they don't respect what I do. I don't even know what I meant by respect. I'm getting tired, bro. My energy level is just like, uh-oh, here we go. But yeah, man, y'all have a great night, everybody. We'll see you on the next Punk Rock Review. Peace.